This is dedicated to the homies that was down since day one. Welcome to Drop D.
Welcome, guys. Welcome back to Quick Hits, a JFK assassination research and study news and notes podcast. I am half of your hosts, Doug Campbell. Please join me in welcoming the remaining half, Mr. Rob Clark. What up, Rob?
Hey, thank you, Doug. What's happening, my man? Been a while. Shit.
Yeah, it's been, 6 weeks? That's all right, though, man. That's okay.
Feels like forever.
It feels like the first time. It feels like the very first time. I've been waiting a lifetime.
Memories. God,
yeah, man. Sail across what's that? What's the lyric? I don't know. Introduce our guest. We're getting off track already. Everybody's in way too good of a mood this morning.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, joining the show again for an epic 5th or 6th time, we can't remember which, epic researcher and author of note, Mr. Bart Kamp joins the show again. Bart, welcome to the show, my friend.
Hello, gentlemen. Hope you're all both well. And to the listeners, I salute you all. And thank you for listening.
Bart is back.
Very well said, Bart. God damn.
Damn, he's profound this morning. He was way more animated 30 seconds ago.
I know. Where's that Bart? Somebody. Hey, not only did he unplug the goddamn interface a minute ago, but I think he unplugged himself. Bart, plug yourself back in.
It's like what
Hello, everyone. Glad to be here. And thank you for having me, Rob and Douglas.
It's like he got nervous or something. Like, oh shit, he's recording.
Yeah.
I don't do nervous.
I know you don't. We're just teasing. No, we're not live. No, absolutely not. We've never done a live show. And we never will if I get my way. There's no reason for that. There's no reason for all that. Because nobody ever calls. You know?
Bad things can happen live on the air, Doug, in case you didn't know that.
Yes, they can. Absolutely. and not only that, but like people have these like call us, and nobody calls. I can't.
That's pretty embarrassing.
I couldn't deal with that.
Caller, you are on the air, sir.
Where?
Hello?
All right. Well, hey, we're getting off track already, guys. Again, twice. That's twice already. Yeah. Welcome to the show, everybody. Quick Hits,
the most focused show on earth.
Yeah, the most focused show on earth. Well, what we do is we talk about JFK assassination research, news and notes, things going on in the community and in the news, as it were, related to the JFK assassination. And we talk about a lot of that kind of study, that kind of stuff. The first thing I want to do, guys, I want to send a shout out and a get well to a colleague of ours, Mr. Casey Quinlan. He was recently injured in a car accident down there in Texas where he lives. And just from all of us, Rob and I had the pleasure of having lunch with Casey one day at a conference about 9 years ago, something like that. And a good guy, good fella. We love you, Mr. Casey. Please get better, get well, rest. Yeah. We hope to see you in Dallas in November.
Full and speedy recovery, for sure.
He said some guy running from the cops hit him from behind at like 90. Isn't that crazy? Wow. But I did talk to him. He is okay. He's doing. He's on the mend. So get better, Mr. Casey. Now, Rob, you were going to bring the first topic of discussion today. You always have something nice and intriguing for us.
Well, since Bart's on the show, I figured I got to bring the fucking heat. You know what I'm saying? So
that's right, man.
I got a couple things here. Now, have either one of you read the book Oswald, Assassin, or Fall Guy?
Joachim
Josten, yes.
Joachim.
It has been, oh, wow, that was probably when I was in high school, man. Mid-'80s since I've read that. That came out in the 60s, right?
Yeah.
It came 67? Out in early 64, Bart.
Boy, there you go.
Way early. But it's been...
I think this is one of the first.
Yeah, no, it came out before the Warren Report came out. That's the unique part of it.
Yeah, it came out in like March or April or somewhere in that area of 1964. So I think this is the first book on the assassination written as a conspiracy theory centric kind of book, already calling into question several things.
So this book predated
Now,
Mark Lane's book, right? Rush to Judgment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. By at least a year and a half. Yeah.
Now, didn't I read, or haven't I heard that even that early that him and Mae Brussel were in contact back then? Probably heard that from Mae Brussel, like she was aware of him even that early. She probably bought his book when it first came out.
To that, but yeah, this guy, Jostin, had a lot of contacts in the DPD and the newspaper industry, and he used them to his fullest potential. Believe me. So, the other day I'm reading through this book, just as a man, I haven't looked through this in a while type of thing. And all this stuff starts jumping off the pages at me, like, and I'm keeping in mind, okay, this is the first book. This is less than 6 months after the assassination. And how accurate, let me ask y'all a question there. Maybe you've heard something about it, but how accurate do you think the Hertz clock on top of the school book depository was? Do we know if it was accurate? Bart, have you heard anything about the accuracy of that clock?
No.
Because I know that everybody alleges that the assassination took place around 12:30, 12:31.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, in this book, Jostin's saying that Sheriff Decker came on the air around 12:25 p.m. and ordered his deputies to the area above and behind the grassy knoll. So that's kind of odd to me. But then you figure, okay, well, it just might be discrepancy, and it's 5 minutes. You know what I mean? It might be a discrepancy in watches or clocks or whatever, right? So he goes on, and was it the Dallas Morning News? Basically stated that the assassination happened at 12:20 p.m. And there are multiple editions that they put out that day. I think they put out 3 or 4 editions, and they never corrected that statement. And he actually called the news desk of the the Times Herald, and he got some guys, the assistant news editor and one of his reporters, on the phone. And he says, as you will understand, gentlemen, my story will have far greater impact if I can be quite specific about the speed with which you covered this momentous event. As a starting point, of course, I would like to know what the time was precisely when the report of the shooting was received here at the news desk. Quick as a flash and replying together, they both said 12:29. Okay. Which, of course, okay, you can figure, okay, a couple minutes here or there. If he was actually shot at 12:30, 12:31, somebody would have got on the phone and called them relatively quickly, within a minute or two, maybe. So I don't know exactly how accurate all this was. Now, back to the morning news thing, and like I said, in their paper, it says Kennedy was shot at about 12:20 p.m. Friday at the foot of Elm Street as the presidential car entered the approach to the triple underpass. And it said the big clock atop the depository plainly said 12:30, according to many, many witnesses. So he's thinking that there's already some fuckery afoot there when it comes to the timing of this thing. Now, I don't think that, Bill Decker had any, foreknowledge or whatever and ordered deputies to that area before the assassination occurred, because we have zero evidence of that. But I just think when it comes to the timing of things, we've relied for years and years about, okay, that the assassination happened at this time, but maybe it really didn't.
At 12:30.
Which is interesting,
But they're placing it about
Just
10
goes to
minutes
show.
before, right? almost 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Originally, like at 12
as much as 10 minutes.
Yeah. That's a lot.
The motorcade was delayed by 5, wasn't it?
Yeah. And then, so this second thing, now this, Bart, you might be able to help a lot with this one. The second thing I noticed about this, he goes into talking about the TSBD, and he's talking about the remains of fried chicken, some chicken bones, and an empty Coca-Cola bottle found at the sniper's window on the 6th floor.
Yeah,
okay?
It wasn't found at the window; it was further away. But
yeah,
that's another area of contention where people just say it was at the sniper's nest. It wasn't in the sniper's nest; it was further towards the middle of the 6th floor windows.
Right. Yeah. Now I've seen as little as 5 feet, Bart, and as much as, like you said, halfway across the building.
Mm-hmm. But,
now, Bart, from everything that you've heard, how late do you think that Bonnie Ray Williams was up there on the 6th floor eating his chicken, and smoking his cigarette and drinking his Coke?
Well, he makes it sound like he was really there for a really short time, only a few minutes. But if you consume your lunch, you're there longer. And also, he finished his lunch.
Smoked a cigarette.
Exactly. And there's just a whole problem with him going up by himself, whereas the statements of the three, Hank Norman and James Jarman, were in unison at first, that they all went up together. And then all of a sudden he got separated and basically was on the 6th and went down. Then it is about, did he take the stairs down? Did he take the elevator down? And so forth. All these little details that just don't coincide at all. And I don't know what to make of it. All I do know is that those boys were scared in actually telling the truth. It's the same with the so-called meeting on the 4th floor. What happened was that after the assassination, they hung around. They went to the west side themselves to look down in the railroad yard, and then made their way down. And if you look at the statements from those three, they basically went down on the 4th floor, had a chat with the women that also stood near the back stairs, and this is after Victoria Adams and Sandra Stiles went downstairs, and they had a chat. And then when it comes to the Warren Commission report, it pretty much gets deep sixth, like it didn't happen, or we weren't there, or this, that. No, we went in one go, just down to the 1st floor. So, yeah, the real truth is very hard to obtain with regards to how long Bonnie Ray Williams was on the 6th floor before he went down to the 5th, and then also later on when he went down to the 4th and then down to the 1st.
Now, I've heard reports that he was up there as late as possibly 12:25.
If
now he was 12:10, 12:15, possibly as late as 12:25. Okay. Now, in this book, according to the some reporter named Roberts of the Detroit Free Press, got a story from Roy Trullian, reports that 5 depository employees had worked in the storage room on the 6th floor until noon, covering the floor with plywood. One of them, Bonnie Ray Williams, walked near the window at the 10 o'clock a.m. smoke break, downed a bottle of pop, chewed on a piece of chicken, and he says this kills the theory that the assassin had eaten while waiting in ambush. So, Bart,
was there a shooter on the 6th floor? How about that? Yeah.
Right.
I mean, Ed Ledoux did excellent work on that. I've helped him. There's a thread at ROKC, which was made a few years back. It was called No Shots Fired. And Ed Ledoux did an excellent job on researching about the possibility about whether there was actually an actual shooter present on that floor as such.
Yeah,
and,
now we know there was a group of guys up there working that day, replacing the floor on the 6th floor. And what Jostin says, according to Truly, that the 6th floor was basically used as a secondary warehousing area, that very few orders were ever pulled from this area. It was basically like a repository for other books that were down on the first, second, third floors, where most of the books were that they pulled orders from. And that when those got low, they would go up to the 6th floor and grab what they needed to replenish the lower floors, which makes sense.
Yeah, but hold on the 3rd floor, I don't think they had books there. No, neither on the 4th. On the 2nd floor, the only thing they had was stationery, which was on the landing, where Baker allegedly saw Oswald passing the door through the window of the door. I think it was the 5th and the 6th floor, which were the main floors where the books were kept. No, unless somebody can prove me otherwise. So
yeah, I mean, he's basically saying, the stuff on the 6th floor was basically, bulk overstock, that a lot of orders weren't actually pulled from there, but for the most part, that it was used to replenish the lower floors.
Right.
Now we jump down, and Henry Wade had a press conference. Yeah.
Good old Henry.
He listed evidence and basically other proofs that were meant to point towards Oswald being the assassin, okay? And we can take these point by point and either confirm or deny, or just basically see what he says about him.
Is this part of his nice, neat little bow that he talked about in his interview that time? Yeah. I guess it was that day, wasn't it? Yeah, we've got all this tied up in a nice, neat little bow, this guy Oswald. Yeah.
So number one, he says a number of witnesses saw Oswald at the window of the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository. Mm-hmm. Now, some people saw somebody, but nobody ever positively identified Oswald as being the guy, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. Jesse Curry said it to Peter Dale Scott. It's on video on YouTube. Type that in. Peter Dale Scott, Jesse Curry. You get a video. No one could put him in that window.
No one, yeah. And no one, he also, part of that, he said with a rifle.
Yeah.
We never did. Yeah, that's what he said. Yeah.
Yeah, I should be more specific. Thank you. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, he said we never had anything to put him in a window with a rifle. I don't know how more plain you can get.
Yeah. I'll do you one better. My research basically is because I put everything in a chronological manner. I pretty much found out that when the Dallas police allegedly arraigned him for the murder of the president at about 1 a.m., 1:30, half 1, they didn't have anything to connect him to the rifle. The Heidel ID didn't exist for the DPD. It existed the next day on the 23rd. The fingerprints, the palm prints, were taken away by the FBI before he was arraigned for that murder rap. And on top of that, the nitrate tests weren't developed until the next day at Parkland Hospital. And what's very important is that the Heidel ID didn't exist at all with any DPD files, although they make it sound like they found an ID on him. But the only thing they have is a so-called alleged wallet that was found at the Tippit scene.
Yeah, that's the wallet that Reserve Officer Kenneth Croy found and gave to, was it Westbrook? The one that allegedly had the ID, the Heidel.
Westbrook and the FBI guy, I forgot his name.
They're at the scene. They're at the Tippit scene.
Bob Barrett.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Bob Barrett. Thank you, Rob. And how that is going to be part of the evidence when they already have a wallet. The bigger story is even that when all the evidence is laid out and James Hosty goes after the initial interrogation, which finishes at about 4:00 in the afternoon on the 22nd, he makes notes of the evidence, and there's no Heidel ID there. And nor is there of any of the interrogations on the 22nd any mention of a Heidel name or ID. The first time actually that's mentioned is on the 23rd in the morning at about 11:30 at the end of the first interrogation that morning. It started at 10:30.
24 hours later.
Yeah, well, almost 24 hours later. And on top of that, there's an FBI document that I unearthed from the Malcolm Blunt archive that is a real distinct mention of the Heidel ID in connection with the rifle. So that's 8 or 10 hours after Oswald's been arraigned whatsoever. They had no evidence whatsoever. But then there's also quite a lot of question marks with regards to that particular arraignment as such. But can I just interject in just one thing? Because you mentioned Joachim Houston. If you go to the Malcolm Blunt archives, there's a few documents on Houston. And one of them is from the Gestapo, the German state police. And this is written in 1936. And they're already branding him like a communist at that time. This document is in German, page 1 and 2, but page 3 and 4 goes into a translation of it as such. And it's quite interesting, just trying to, what Malcolm says, they're just basically trying to tarnish Houston, discredit him as such. I thought I'd mention that. The Malcolm Blunt archives, if you go to dealeyplazauk.com and go to the research, then it takes you to a link to the Malcolm Blunt archive.
Yeah, and researchers out there, if you're not using that repository, what are you doing? Because
yeah,
you can find all kinds of good shit over there. Let me tell you.
There's loads more coming. I think I've done about 12,000 pages this year so far.
Wow.
You're
outpacing the federal government by about 8 then.
Yeah. The material is really good. Some really good stuff, because these are the records that Malcolm kept at his closest. So there's a lot of CIA stuff there. A lot of things that raise questions. Or anything, CIA, Cuba, New Orleans, Oswald himself, Russia, etc. So there's a lot of interesting stuff. By the 60th anniversary, there's going to be a
Bart
full
declassified all the documents before the fucking government.
He's on pace to do that.
Well, that's another thing. Malcolm has basically been lucky that when certain documents were released and publicly available, well, by going there to it, Malcolm was there, photocopied them, and then there's, I don't say a lot, but some documents were reclassified, and some documents were unredacted and have been redacted. So certain people have been going in there at NARA and just reclassify documents as such. When we're talking, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. So this was done. And it's just quite interesting what's been done with it as such. But for the 60th, there's going to be a grand release of this archive. And also there's another author. His name is just eluding me for a second. Matthew Smith. Matthew Smith passed away about 6 years ago. And I got hold of his archive. And he didn't do just John F. Kennedy, but he also did Marilyn Monroe, RFK, and that research is going to be shared through the website as well. So
sweet,
yeah, plenty to look at.
All right, next point he brings up is Oswald's palm print being on the rifle.
Right, that he mentioned. The earliest he mentioned that's the second press conference. That's the press conference on the 24th after Oswald's killed. Is that correct?
I believe so, yeah. But the FBI didn't find a palm print on the rifle after they sent it, did they?
Right, yeah, that's the whole thing. The palm print didn't show up until after he was dead. You know, a lot of things didn't show up until after he was dead.
Yeah, that's something I go quite deep into in my new book. So I've basically gone, when I released my papers last year in June, Malcolm went to me, "You should do a book." And I was like, oh, God, I just finished all this. And he went, "No, you need to do a book." I was like, okay. So because I said, okay, do the book, then I have to look into the fingerprints, the palm prints, and the nitrate test. And it was just shocking what came up about it. And they had to reprint Oswald's fingers and palm print in the middle of the night after the press conference, because they gave all their materials to the FBI, and the FBI lost it. They couldn't find it. And they tried to find it during the HSCA, and it was just a clerk who found it by accident, because it wasn't filed away properly. And if you look at the portal of Texas history online, the only original fingerprints they have are the ones that were taken by Carl Knight in the middle of the night. No pun intended. After the press conference, the originals of the prints from taken at 9 p.m. on the 22nd are nowhere to be found. Nowhere. It's a mess. The whole thing is a mess. The palm prints, same thing. Then it comes, of course, with Vincent Drain. Carl Day apparently gives the rifle to Drain, and Carl Day states that I told him about the palm print, but because the stock was preserving it, so I didn't have to ring cling film around it, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking that's just rubbish. And there was cling film around the trigger guard, but not around the stock, underneath the barrel. And Drain, of course, said, no, we don't. We had no idea what was going on. On top of that, the FBI disassembled the entire rifle and photographed it the day after, and they found nothing. Right. So, and Dave didn't want to perjure himself during the Warren Commission. So he said, like, he wouldn't like state it like, yeah, it's a fact that I did that, such and such. Wouldn't do it.
All right, number 3, they say Oswald's palm print appeared on a cardboard box found at the window.
Yeah.
So, well, no shit. I mean, he worked there, right, Bart? I mean,
yeah. Hey,
this is not evidence of anything.
No, but there were other palm prints and fingerprints there as well. So that doesn't make him the shooter. So that's the thing. I think there was about 10 or 12 different prints, different individuals. So, you know.
Yep. We talked about the paraffin tests already. The rifle had been purchased by Oswald through the mail under assumed name. We talked about that. Oswald had in his possession an ID card with the name Heidel. We talked about that. Oswald was seen in the building by a police officer just after the president was shot. Oh, dear. Which again, Bart, means nothing. No, he was there.
It is fictitious. Actually, it's Oswald who gave him the information, and they twisted it around.
Right.
This has been probably the first thing that I actually decided to investigate. You and I talked about this back in 2016, I think, for the Lone Gunman podcast in great depth. And, there were many things that basically just nullified that whole so-called alleged encounter. Baker never went to the second floor for that. I doubt even that Baker went up there, but that's an area to discuss. But yes, he did. No, he didn't. But the actual encounter never happened because the kicker is during the very first interrogation, which is happening between 2:30 and 4 o'clock. The FBI joins at 3:15. So from the first 30 to 45 minutes of interrogation by Will Fritz, with Detective Richard Sims and Elmer Boyd present as well, there are no records whatsoever. Now, we've got records because Jim Hosty of the FBI took notes. And during those interrogations, he basically gives him the information that he got a Coke for his lunch. Not after, for his lunch. Lunch was at 12 o'clock, not at 12:30. Yeah. It was at 12 o'clock. And it lasted 45 minutes. So now, during that interrogation, there is also a mentioning of Warren Caster and the rifles that he brought in and displayed and put on show in front of Roy Truely's office, which is on the first floor. Now, that info gets relayed after the interrogation, which ends at 4:00. And it gets relayed to headquarters, and headquarters contacts Nat Pinkston. Now, Nat Pinkston arrives at the test, who's an FBI agent, and he arrives at about just before 1:00 at the Texas School Book Depository. And he ends up interviewing Roy Truely on at least 2 occasions that day. And this is the document where the second floor lunchroom encounter is created, a fictitious encounter. And basically that Oswald was walking past the door, was spotted by Marion Baker. Baker, who apparently, allegedly, walked behind Roy Truely. And this is the thing that always puzzled me. It was like, why, if you have a gunman in the building, when you think there's a gunman in the building, do you let the superintendent walk ahead of you while you have your gun, your pistol pulled out, and he's right in the middle of the line of fire? Have the guy walk ahead of you. On top of that,
exactly.
How can, after just going up 2 little flights of stairs, I think there's about 8 or 10 steps on each flight, gain that much of he's that far ahead that he doesn't even see Baker go in the lunchroom area with a door that has a self-closing mechanism, and the self-closing mechanism takes about 3 seconds to open and another 3 to close, and just by the time he realizes he's on the second or third step, looks back and doesn't see him, and then basically walks back towards the area where he has to open the door. From a timing perspective, it's impossible. It's absolutely impossible to do this because it's not a lot of people say, oh, it's the big space. It is not. You're looking at wide angle photos as well, so they make the space look large. And it's really, really small. Just like Dealey Plaza is the area where Kennedy was shot when you go from the building to the murder site. You know, just walk down there in a matter of seconds. That report basically fingers Oswald as a person who came from upstairs. Whereas you can still debate whether Oswald came from the first floor and went upstairs to get a drink. But during that interrogation, there's no talk about an encounter whatsoever. There's only talk about him getting a Coke for his lunch. And it's written in Hostie's notes. It is even written in the joint report by Bookout and Hostie together, which, funnily enough, gets changed after Oswald's death. Bookout rewrites that report, and they change it. Three elements are completely done on 180 on. And, I suggest that people go and listen to that podcast from back then, because that's an hour and a half's worth, I think, or maybe 2 hours of just talking about that encounter and what is actually wrong with it. When I wrote that piece, it became 160 pages long in a Word document, so with pictures and documents and so forth. And now for the book, I've actually mingled it with the Texas School Book Depository chapter, because it's important. I thought, well, you know what? A lot happens on the first floor. A lot happens at the front of the building. So I thought, you know what? I'll just interject it in on these places, like the front, the first floor, the second floor, and so forth. So it's only the key bits have been taken out. It was only after I got that Nat Pinkston report from the Blunt Archive that I was just like, wow, this is dynamite. The reason why that's so important is because it is at this point that Pinkston asked Truely about the rifles. And it's only during the first interrogation that Oswald mentioned those rifles in front of Truely's office. So it was, and the document is dated November the 22nd as well. So, And then after that, you have 2 reports on the 22nd, 2 FBI reports on the 23rd. There's about 4 reports on him. And there is also a DPD report as well. So it's about 5 reports just on truly rehashing the same bullshit scenario of that so-called second floor mushroom encounter. What's funny as well, sorry, there's one thing. And this is quite important. Sean Murphy mentioned this back in 2013 in one of the reports from Truly. He says that he walked up and they got inside and he said they saw no one there. And this phrase is really odd and it's really off. And of course, this is in relation with Prayer Man or Oswald's presence, because it's not just Roy Truly who says that. I think it's Pauline Sanders as well who makes mention of this, that says that there's nothing happening inside that so-called vestibule. And if you look at the Darnell film, you can see there are people already going up there. And we also know that Otis Williams, who stands prominently on the steps in the Algins photo and the Viekman film, that he's already gone inside at that point to go upstairs to the 4th floor to have a better look. So, yeah.
Well, speaking of rifles, so the next one we got is clearly bullshit. Oswald's wife said that she noticed his rifle was missing Friday morning. We know is bullshit.
Well, I'll do you one better. At 8 o'clock in the evening, she was called in to go to the DPD. And you know that scene where Carl Day walks around with the rifle above his shoulders? And, you know, the whole dog and pony show. And, well, that's actually to bring the rifle down to have Marina Oswald look at the rifle. And she didn't recognize it. And that has been kept quiet a lot. Nobody talks about this. Because
really, nobody ever does.
No, and had it been, then they would have been the first ones to tell and say it would have been reflected in interrogations. It would have been that happened after, or it would have been reflecting in any report by FBI or Secret Service or Dallas Police. And she didn't recognize the rifle.
Yeah, this next one's funny. Oswald, while taking a bus from the scene, laughed loudly as he told a woman passenger that the president had just been shot. Ha ha!
That was a kid.
I've never heard that.
The name.
Never heard that.
No, I've read about it. There's another thread at ROKC where you basically talk about the bus. Ed Ledoux, once again, writes about this. And as far as my feeble memory can recollect, it's a younger kid that says that and shouts it out in the bus. Yeah. But then again, Oswald didn't take the bus, so that's another thing. So,
well, then Bart, a taxi driver named Daryl Click, took Oswald home where he changed his clothes.
Yeah, well,
and grabbed his gun.
yeah, that's wrong too.
Because
Daryl Click was a name made up by Wade. Wade admitted it later on and said, like, "Oh, it just came into my head." He just basically a fictitious name, just made it up.
He made up a witness and then he admitted it later.
Yeah.
No way.
That's exactly what it. No, yes way.
Really?
Until they got Wally to admit that he was the taxi driver.
Yeah.
Took Oswald.
And William Wally was a terrible witness as well. Dreadful.
Yeah.
Absolutely dreadful witness.
And was killed shortly after the assassination.
Yeah.
Let's see. So the next few kind of all wrapped together. Oswald shot and killed a police officer. A witness saw Oswald enter the Texas Theater, and Oswald drew his pistol and attempted to kill the arresting officer in the theater.
Yeah.
Well, so all these things, they say, convicted Oswald in the eyes of the public. So
yeah, well, that's what they did anyway. Because I mean, what murder case? I mean, I don't know of any other murder case where the press is basically red carpeted through the 3rd floor corridor. Anyone who wanted to be there with a press pass could walk in there. I mean, Jack Ruby could. So they could just all waltz in there and hang out in front of an office where 20 feet distance, the main suspect is being interrogated.
You know, when you think about it in the context of modern day, that would be unthinkable today.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly. They'll be kept outside the building. Simple as that. But even then, even in that time, I mean, you'd think like maybe some preferred journos could get in. But the photographers and the camera crew, they were bringing in their, these, what you now refer to as studio-style cameras with heavy tripods, huge power cables. There's a picture where you can see the power cables come down from the third floor, the front of the building on Houston, because they needed all that power, and trucks standing right in front of the building, just feeding them. Now it's just unheard of, the whole thing. It's just ridiculous.
It's ridiculous, yeah.
The city fathers, that's the excuse, allowed it. Said, no, it's a good thing that these people should be given access and so forth. And then on top of that, Fritz and Bill Alexander, the assistant DA, they were all blubbing to the press. I mean, even straight after, when Gerald Hill and what's his name? Gosh, the cigar chewer, Paul Bentley. They were being interviewed in the corridor straight after they dropped him off. So everybody was talking freely. It was justice by just their way of just doing justice in front of the press, right there and then. Declare him guilty, right there and then. I mean,
they had their guy. Yeah,
Oswald was declared a commie defector within the hour. His picture went in the wire within the hour. So first of all, he's a commie defector. Then he's a cop killer. Also, right away. We got him in. Yeah,
Castro agent. Until Ruby shot him, he was a Castro agent.
Yeah, who wants to associate themselves with someone like that?
Yeah.
So even if you are working at the Texas School Book Depository, the guy's only been there for 6 weeks. Okay, so all of a sudden he comes in. Hey, you know this guy Oswald? Yeah. Well, he's been in Russia. He stayed in Russia for 2 years. Oh gosh, that's how it goes. Yeah. Oh, he's a communist. He's a commie defector.
Who's going to say anything nice about him? He's only been there 6 weeks.
No, who wants to associate themselves? Right. And the ones that did associate themselves got into trouble. Buell Frazier got into serious trouble.
Yep.
Joe Molina got in serious trouble. They tossed his house and woke up the kids at 2 a.m. And who's there? Who's doing the work? Bill Alexander, a heavyweight. Pat Ganaway from the Criminal Intelligence Division, and Jack Ravel. These are heavy-duty coppers that are basically at 2 o'clock in the morning, tossed the entire house. I think he had 3 children at that time, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe 4, and his wife, and they all had to stay in one room while they were going through everything. And what did they find? Nothing. Just a letter that say, "Dear Comadre," and they thought, "Oh, that's comrade. Oh, that's commie. All right, let's get him. Let's get him for that." Okay, so next morning, 10 o'clock, you come to the police station, and we'll talk to you then, there and then. What do? They keep him there till 5 p.m., and they interrogate him twice, and then after that, he gets chucked out of his job because Jesse Curry, on the 23rd, is just blabbing about it, and basically names him online through the wire on the press, and the phone calls start coming in at the Texas School Book Depository. And go, I ain't gonna order any books from no communists, this, that, and the other. So they feel so they feel that it's gonna hurt their business. So just before Christmas, if I'm not mistaken, Molina gets laid off with 3 months' pay, 3 months half pay, and some extra holiday pay, and so forth. Molina wants to sue Jesse Curry and the Dallas police for basically tarnishing his reputation. I don't know why he didn't push through with it.
He probably got threatened.
Yeah, he was marked.
He probably got threatened if he went through with it.
Wouldn't surprise me.
I mean, after all, he was in Texas,
Yeah.
They probably didn't.
But just to wrap everything up with the Jostein book, it's got a lot of crazy stuff in it. So if you'd like to go back and read the first book about the assassination, conspiracy oriented, it's Oswald Assassin or Fall Guy, by, well, I don't know what Bart called him, but over here they call him Joachim Jostin.
Joachim.
Joaquin, I've heard about.
That's the Spanish
Joaquin
version.
Phoenix.
Joaquin, yeah. Here's the thing. It's interesting to read because it's before the Warren Report came out.
Yes.
That's really important. It's just as important as Sylvia Mars. She wrote, before she wrote Accessories After the Fact, she wrote a paper, and I forgot the title. I made reference to
really? I didn't know. I thought that was the first. Yeah.
That was 2 months after, and she writes a paper where you just go, holy crap, this is amazing. She's already just ripping the Warren Report to shreds based on her knowledge and what they've written, and just on such short time notice.
This is all from sources. It's not from documents. It's not from investigations. This guy just relied on inside sources.
Yeah.
And it's pretty amazing, what all kind of shit he came up with. And we're just scratching the surface here, but, he goes into all kinds of crazy stuff. But yeah, I just want to bring that up. So, Bart, I will hand the baton over to you. I know you've been a busy boy this year.
He's been a very busy boy.
I was surprised when Doug said you were going to grace us with your presence on the show. I thought you were going to be a hermit this year and fucking have long hair and a beard and shit by the end of the year.
No.
Yeah, he just cut his hair, man.
Yeah.
Well, basically, what happened after the papers...
Hey, Bart, let me say, man, I failed you because friends don't let friends get haircuts.
Well, then let me say that to you, Douglas. Get a haircut. Come on.
Absolutely not. No. No way.
So in June last year, when I released my papers, which I'd worked on, I don't know, I started in 2016 with the second floor lunchroom encounter. Then I did the interrogations, and oh boy, did I miscalculate that. I never knew it was going to take me several years to produce that. And the third and the fourth, the third was the Texas School Book Depository, and the fourth was Prayer Man.
Well, you keep finding fucking interrogation notes. You're gonna have to keep adding to it, buddy.
I know. So that's what happened. I found more and more and more. And the thing was also when I met Malcolm Blunt in 2016 in April, and it was at the Dealey Plaza UK Canterbury conference. And slowly he started sending me an envelope of records, and I was scanning them in, this, that, and the other. I was like, yeah, cool, this, that, and the other. And I mentioned that, and I made blog posts about it and so forth. But then in 2018, then he asked me also, can you digitize I've got a handful of cassette tapes. Can you digitize them for me? And I was cool. Like, yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll do that. That's not a problem. I'll know how to do that. And, but what he didn't say was that he had about 350 cassette tapes.
Oh, wow.
I guess Malcolm's hands are a little bit bigger than yours, Martin.
Yeah, it was.
Hey.
So every time there was like a box appearing. Oh, I found these. And he took me to a place in Tetbury. Now, for the Americans, basically, Tetbury is... Yeah, T-E-T.
Oh,
T-E-T-B-U-R-Y. And Tetbury is in the Cotswolds. And the Cotswolds is like the Western countries if you go from London towards Bristol, that kind of direction. But it's a really picturesque area. It's hilly, and it's really nice, and nice trees. And the towns have remnants from hundreds of years ago, the buildings and so forth. So... Well, Malcolm had a property there, and he was going to sell it. And he said, look, I'm going to sell this, but I've got all this stuff here. And I walked in, and what it was that it was just basically an old house that was turned into an office. And the front room was empty, and the back room had just filing cabinets in it. And there was about, rough guess, 20 to 25 of these filing cabinets.
Holy cow.
Yeah, 4-drawer cabinets, and just filled to the brim with folders filled with paper. And paper weighs a ton, I'll tell you. Yes, so what happens was that he gave me, we were looking, he goes like, the cassette tapes of Harry's are in these plastic boxes. And what happened was that he had all this old furniture, and then he found these little alcoves, and he piled these boxes up, and then he had this old furniture all in front of it, and that furniture then was filled with his book collection. Now, some people pride themselves on their book collection. I'll tell you now, forget about it. It's nothing. It is absolutely fucking nothing. He had hundreds of books on the JFK assassination.
We are all rank amateurs, by God.
Yeah, you're beginners, everyone. I'm a total beginner. But I'll tell you what, the thing is that he didn't buy them. They were given to him.
Yeah.
And practically everyone was signed by the author. Malcolm, thank you very much for helping me, this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. Because that's what Malcolm has done. Malcolm is somebody who works from the shadows, right? He just basically gives people the material. If he knows what you're looking for and he comes across it, he'll give it to you. That's his generosity and basically sharing it to people. And I've now become an extension of that by digitizing his archive. Now,
because I can always say, "Hey, Bart, you got anything on so-and-so?"
True. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you know what? That's exactly right, dude. And he is good about that, dear listeners. Another one is it's like he was David Boylan. You know, if he runs across something that he knows is of interest, you just get it in an email. And I just get things from Bart, like, hey, you know, and that's very
because
cool.
I know it's there, so it's good to share because then as well, you guys and others are just better informed to be able to write a better story because it's there. I mean, how you write it, that's one thing, but, you know, at least you have the information at your disposal.
Yeah,
that's what it's about.
And it's always good information. And lots of times I can get an entire episode out of one document. So, wow, that helps. Whew, you have no idea.
Yeah. So while I was there, the thing was I needed to do 4 hours there and 4 hours back. Then while I was arriving, we had to travel for another 45 minutes to get there. So that's another hour and a half. So it's 9.5 hours. So I had about, on average, 2-3 hours just to be there. And it was just a swamp. There's just huge room filled with cabinets. And he went, "Oh, that's my collection. Harry's stuff is in the plastic boxes." So we had to move all the furniture about, get all these cases out. And there were about 32 to 35 of these plastic cases. They were big cases, and they were filled to the brim. But Harry was a good organizer, I have to say. And it meant that he had a lot of duplicate documents because he did it by name. So all the surgeons, all the medical people, certain people in Dallas, they all had their own folder, and everything was just chucked in there. Everything that he found, everything that he knew. There's more his interviews, transcripts, tapes, and copies, pages from books that were concerning that particular person or the matter at hand. So I did that, and then slowly I started to look at Malcolm's stuff because I did it about 3 times that I went back and forth, and I go, "Malcolm, you know what? I can only take this much back," which was about 3 large bags that I put on a trolley and get on the bus and took it back. And I go, "By the rate I'm doing this, we'll be going on forever." So he says, "Well, why don't you come for a few days?" I says, I'll book us a bed and breakfast. So we're staying in a pub 3 doors down, and which is always handy, a pub next close by. And so we go down there, and I'd be working from 8 o'clock till 11 in the evening. And then at some point I was just like, I'm fed up with all this autopsy stuff and this, all this Harry Livingston. And I started to look at Malcolm's materials. And then I found reports that I'd never heard of. Like I found an HSCA contact report of Will Fritz, and and FBI stuff. And he just went, "Oh yeah, that's some of my old stuff." And some people don't know this, but when Malcolm started researching in the mid-90s, till the late 90s, he basically bivouacked, had his residence in Dallas, and worked there, and went to the municipal archives and just started pulling records out with the help of a lady called Cindy Smolovic. And she helped him get all this information. And from there on, he basically went to Washington and lived about a mile away from the Nara and went there 5-6 days a week, just basically pulling up documents from the archives and collect them. And there was so much stuff. And the only issue was that it wasn't organized at all. So whatever I opened the folder, I had no idea what was in it. And on top of that, there were several different subjects in there. So it took me ages to get an idea of what was actually in there and basically start to organize it as such. It took me probably a year just to get an idea of what he had, the names. I heard CIA names I'd never heard of before that only the in crowd like John Newman and Alan Dale know about. So, and then slowly I started to get all the old folders. And that's where the juice was for me. And then when I found in February 2019, I found the most important document for me that were Jim Hostie's handwritten notes, a pre-report that he made, a draft.
The handwritten notes, yeah.
Yes, exactly. So, and that and the earlier released handwritten notes from his flip book by Helmer Reenberg that was posted at the JFK Lancer website started to make sense of what actually what was being said, and the comparison between them meant that basically in the flipbook notes, although that wasn't clear until that second piece of paper came out, was that Oswald already indicated where he was during the assassination as such, and that was in front, outside.
Yep. So. Bart, you and I had I would like to take this opportunity, if I may, to point listeners toward episode number 196 of the Dallas Action podcast. You and I talked almost 3 hours about this subject, about the handwritten notes and the implications.
And Lavelle.
All the cops. Yeah. We went down the list of different DPD officers involved in all the shenanigans that weekend, and I learned a whole lot that I didn't know already. So, guys, go check that out for sure. Bart he expounds way more than he'll be able to today, for sure.
No, that's true. The book will contain a lot of info that has never been published before or been known of. On top of that, I point to documents that have never been publicly released, in that sense that they're available at NARA, but you have to go to NARA to get them. They're not digitized.
Not online.
No, they're not online. I write that on these documents, and there's a lot. It doesn't matter which agency or what subject there is. There's a lot of documents that aren't online, and my suspicion, I don't know if it's nefarious, but the suspicion is actually that the documents that were released in the late 90s after the ARB shut shop in 98. That whole section from then until say 2017 hasn't been digitized at all. So I think everyone is always hammering about the documents, like, oh my God, the documents, the CIA, this, that, and the other. I know Jeff Morley is on the case on that, rightly so. But the old stuff seems to be forgotten and not talked about, and that's what Joe Biden said. Joe Biden said, no, it needs to be digitized. All of it needs to be digitized, and it's not just the JFK records. Everything needs to be digitized. And one day, probably when us three are all rubble and dust, it will be digitized and it will be accessible.
So you think that may be part of the delay, is that they're just like horrendously behind on their scanning?
Well, here's the thing. Because
you're right, though. I mean, there's millions of pages or whatever it is of the JFK records. Yeah. But there's billions of other things.
I know, of course, Civil War stuff, First World War, Second World War. You can go on till the cows come home.
Nobody gives a shit about all that stuff. I mean, come on.
Come on, Operation Paperclip. Come on.
There's nothing to solve there. I mean, come on, damn it.
Let's move on. Let me give you a good indicator. I've done roughly, give or take, 165,000 pages and about 20 to 25,000 PDFs. One day, probably by the end of this year, I'll know pretty much the exact number. So 165,000 pages, which is what? There are apparently 7 million pages?
Yeah.
Well, what's that? 2%? 2.5%? Now, and I worked on this from, say, late 2018 till now. So that's 5 years. Okay, almost 5 years.
Drop in the bucket.
Exactly. So now you're going to go to the archives and say, yo, man, digitize this. Yeah. Now they'll have an industrial machine, and they'll need an army of people.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. What do you got? 200, 300, 400 people all the time doing this?
Yeah, that's mind-numbing stuff.
Get a bunch of homeless people and line them up and tell them to shove all this shit in the machine.
No, they'll use those rolling papers and smoke them as joints. No way. Get out. But yes, it's humongous. I mean, the amount of paper. Isn't that amazing? 7 million pages for a lone nut gunman.
Yeah.
Normally that could be done in a folder or two, and that's it. But no.
Yeah. I think the simple size of the collection belays the notion of a lone gunman.
Yeah.
There's, and I think that's an argument we all go back to as far as the continued withholding of this stuff, is that there's no reason for this if it's just him. There's no reason for it.
Yeah, but the thing is, of course, the Central Intelligence Agency was up to a lot of nefarious stuff, and that's another thing from the documents. The FBI are bureaucrats, and they tell you as it is. The Central Intelligence Agency talks in euphemisms
and codes.
And never like direct talk and say, "Oh, it's such and such." It's only like parts of it where you go, "Okay," but everything is named, everything is code named, everything doesn't have any connection to the agency. Persons, there's only very few people that actually have a direct relation and working for the agency, but a lot of people are like hired.
No
by
traces
else
found.
Outside. Exactly. Plausible deniability and all that hokum. But that also is reflected in the documentation as such. Malcolm is an expert in reading those euphemisms and that so-called code language. And of course, John Newman, for instance, as well, is very good at that because he used to work at the NSA himself.
Yeah, and Larry Hancock has a really good handle on that stuff too.
True. Yeah, great researcher.
And it's the codes and the cryptonyms. It seems like anytime I write an episode of the Dallas Action, and many times when I write this one, I always have to reference that Mary Farrell Foundation cryptonyms page. That's so helpful,
Yeah.
But
it all starts with AM spell, AM denim, and so forth.
Oh, there's a million
AM
of them.
taint.
Those little AM taint,
Yeah.
ZRs.
Yeah, ZR rifle, all that. Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of it.
AM Bollocks.
You got MH Chaos is another one.
AM Bollocks.
Yeah,
that's the code word for their Canadian operation, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've learned a lot I didn't read all those 165,000 pages, but you glance at them, and at some point, you start to see certain connections between things you never thought of, never knew of. And, one thing is, for instance, the HSCA, G. Robert Blakey versus Scott Breckinridge at the CIA, requesting records, getting replies, and so forth. That by itself is a book on its own. The amount of information. I mean, you guys have been plowing through this stuff. When you look at New Orleans, for instance, as well, it's just amazing amount of information. Warren DeBrois, besides Clay Shaw and Ferry and all that lot. There's just a ton to read. Customs is something that is a real enigma. The INS regarding Oswald, New Orleans. There's something really odd about that going on. There's many records missing. It's something that Malcolm dug deep in, but didn't get much further at some point. And and on top of that, what Malcolm also has done, spend a lot of time on, is get finder's aids, but also find out where records have been destroyed and are missing as such. That by itself is another book you could write, because
the FBI, I know, was
there.
definitely destroying records.
Yeah.
In the 90s.
Yeah. I mean, the Secret Service did as well, even after they were told to hand them over during the ARB.
Yeah, that came up in the news.
Get away with it.
That was mentioned a lot in the media in the wake of the January 6th insurrection and all the text messages. They
did the same thing.
Yeah, they destroyed a bunch of text messages. And I was surprised to see that come up in sort of the mainstream media. Like, well, hey, they've done it before. Look what happened in the 70s. With the JFK assassination. I was kind of surprised.
True. Yeah. No, it's just terrible. But, they know they can get away with it. So that's why they'll do it. So, that's the thing. I mean, they had no legal mandate to basically just say, like, if you don't do that, we'll hold you responsible, blah, blah, blah. So Secret Service is an entity on its own. Doesn't answer to anyone. The only one they probably answer to is the president. And the president just walks away and goes, pretends that his nose is bleeding. That stuff. So,
I heard that.
Somebody's got to change Biden's diaper.
Yeah.
He's not going to do it. No. He's not going to do it. Well, so Bart, tell us about the book. So the book is what's your target date for the book?
Why? Okay, so
why?
After I released. Why? Oh, gosh. Because Malcolm told me to. Yeah. I thought I was finished in June last year.
Oh, man.
But then Malcolm said, no, you should do it.
Well, Rob and I speak for everybody.
Like, oh, gosh.
We don't want you to be finished. we want you to keep going.
I'm sick of it. No, you don't. I mean,
I'll leave you a bunch of shit to digitize when I pass, Bart.
Now that was, it was never meant to last that long. I was supposed to work on it for about 4 to 5 months in the first half of 2019, and all kinds of circumstances. It just kept going on and on and on. Plus, Malcolm had split his collection, and I got hold of his second part of materials, and it just kept going on and on. And during COVID, whenever we were allowed to travel in between lockdowns, I went there with Peter Antil, and before that with Tony Basing, to collect larger amounts of bags. And I filled up my second bedroom here with just loads of stuff. My girlfriend wasn't happy, but she knew it was important. So to me and my work. And then I did that. And the thing was also, it stopped my work as a researcher in the sense that the delay of the release of the papers, because I kept finding stuff all the time. And because everything was, just imagine a bulldozer and you lift it all up and then you drop it down from 10 feet or 15 feet, whatever.
Yeah.
And then you have to pack it all back together again. Well, that's what it looked like.
Kind of like
so I took that
Shanksville for the 9/11 plane crash, right?
Sorry, Rob, I didn't get that. You broke up.
Oh, I said kind of like they did in Shanksville for the 9/11 plane crash when they dug a ditch and blew up a bunch of trash and said a plane crashed here.
Yeah, something like that. And so it meant that I was like, well, I was trying to put something together where I went like, well, I've tried to go through this archive and looked at everything. This is the material that I'm using. And even in the last days of scanning last year, earlier this year, I found stuff that I was like, wow, this needs to be added on. And last year, same thing. So it meant that I just basically put the release on hold for at least 2 years. I did post blogs, but I didn't really do the papers. So, but the papers, I worked on that from, say, end of 2021 until June 22. And then I released it, and then Malcolm says, you should do a book. And I was like, oh my God. So I took a break for about 2-3 months, but then realized, like, okay, if you do a book, what needs to be added on? And then I, as you probably know, I did the fingerprints, the palm print, and the nitrate tests. And then earlier this year, I also thought that I should do Oswald at Youth House. I posted this on my website, prayer-man.com, a week or so ago, 2 weeks, about Oswald in 1953 was a truant. What happened was that Marguerite and Lee left for New York, and they took him into a place called Youth House.
Bart, that was Harvey.
Yeah,
that was Harvey.
No bullshit. There's no Harriet and Lillian. Okay, there's none of that rubbish.
Rob, listen. That's lesson 1 on how to get a rise out of Bart. That was Harvey. That was Harvey.
Yes.
Basically, he was there and did psychiatric tests, and he had about 3 or 4 of them. And there's a 30-page document that is referred to in the article I wrote, and all these people wrote about his patterns, his behavior, and so forth. And the reason why I did that was because if there's anything that gives some good insight into the person Lee Harvey Oswald, it was that. And on top of that, there's a video of Oswald when he's being interviewed in New Orleans after his altercation with the DRE. And then you see him as a person being interviewed and how he answers. He doesn't volunteer any information. He answers you, but only when you ask him a question. He doesn't instigate a conversation.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, I was like, right, okay, interesting. This is the type of person he is. When I was in the army years ago, we had an individual in our platoon as well. Would never say a word, quiet. But if you start talking to him, not a problem whatsoever. He just talk back at you, this, that, and the other. So it's just his character. Oswald was a similar guy like that. And I thought that was important. It needs to be added on with the referral to the video. And I thought, we need to put this in because what kind of person are we actually dealing with as such? This is also why a lot of coppers in Dallas thought he was arrogant. There's a smug-faced bastard who was telling lies, this, that, and the other. But he was only answering the questions that he was asked as such. Never gave any other information or additional stuff as such.
Yeah, he was always
so I added that.
A cool customer, I believe is
yes.
Yeah, for sure.
So I added that, and then I didn't want because there were 4 papers: the second floor lunchroom encounter, the interrogations, the TSBD, and the Prayer Man part. I was like, well, you know what? I'm gonna integrate the second floor lunchroom encounter in between the front part, which is about Prayer Man, and also inside the Texas School Book Depository section. So I have 3 large chapters. I start with Prayer Man. Funnily enough, I don't end with it. I start with it. The Prayer Man bit is basically the people that are on the front steps that have been recognized, identified, their statements, and so forth. And Baker's Run, for instance, Marion Baker's Run has been filmed by Malcolm Couch and James Darnell. And then, of course, the Wiegman film. So I talk about the films, the search for the films, the interviews these guys did, the notes. Nellie Darnell gave me which is Jimmy Darnell's daughter. She gave me a document that she created for me. There were notes from possibly 1964, which were the recollections of Jimmy Darnell.
Oh, well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I posted that. It's on the website. It's on the Jimmy Darnell page and camera. And and that made me also realize, like, I need to do some more interviews. And I asked Ed Ledoux to call Roy Edward Lewis, and he spoke to him about half a dozen times and managed to record 3 of them. And that's all transcribed for the book. So that's also exclusive. I have not posted that on the website. And I'm trying to do a few more interviews in the next few weeks. And if I get successful, those will be added as well. The script as it is now finished. I'm just double checking everything, which is also a bastard of a job, which I'm not happy with to do. And
you're supposed to, yeah, man. Yeah.
I mean, having to reread your own stuff over and over again. It's just like, go
Lord.
away. I don't want to know. I've written it already.
Exactly. It's got to be akin to listening to the podcast you just uploaded.
Exactly.
Same thing. Yeah.
But then it's like, Douglas, it's like, no, you've got 3 weeks of that every day. So it's like, oh, go away, man. It's like,
because you've lived with it for so long.
Yeah.
By
I
the
spoke
time
to William
it's there.
Law about this as well, and he went, "Yeah." He says that's exactly the moment where you just go, "I don't ever want to speak about this stuff ever again." I'm like, "Yeah, that's how I feel." I'm close to finishing it. I've got a couple of days left. Then it's going to be looked at by. I'm going to have Alan Dale offered his help for me to look at it, which I'm going to do. Take him up on his offer, and then from then on, it's going to be an ebook, and then after that, the paper version comes out. Do I do the ebook because the papers I did because I didn't want to do a book at that time, still don't, but since I've been told, so
You've been
I did the papers. Yeah, I did the papers purely because they're interactive papers with clickable links and documentation. And especially the first when I released those 4, I don't know how many hundreds of pages there were together, but I think it was 600 or 700. And I've now squeezed it down to 300 odd. And but that was another thing. I wanted it to be as compact as possible. I don't want like JFK and the Unspeakable, which is just a heavy bastard of a book, which was impossible to read in bed because it was just so heavy on your wrist. It would just hurt your wrist while you're holding it. It's just too heavy. There's 1,200 odd pages. So
yeah.
And I was like, that's one thing I'm doing. So I've now created an ebook that is. I haven't counted the links, but my estimation is that it nears 1,500 or maybe it's above it. And
wow.
So it's an average of 5-6 sources per page. Yeah, it's a lot of stuff to click on.
And with those kind of hyperlinks, though, that's such a
version.
great thing, Bart. Those kind of hyperlinks and making it so interactive because
that's the beauty of an ebook.
But it's an archive in and of itself.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, thanks to Malcolm Blunt, I've basically added at least, I don't know, half of it. Thanks to him. I mean, I had a pretty good story. I think like I had a pretty good story ready back in 2016, 2017 for what was available. But then I got a lot more cream and cherries on top due to Malcolm's archive and knew that was going to benefit the work I was doing. So it had to be added on. The paper version, I don't know how long it's going to take. It'll probably take me about a month until get that sorted. There are some technical matters I need to dig into with publishing it. It'll be done through Amazon. And the book, as I said, it starts with the Prayer Man bit, the front of the TSBD. Then we're going inside the Texas School Book Depository. It's amazing how many people were actually inside the building on the first, the second, the third, the fourth, and the fifth floor. Nobody was on the 6th or the 7th at that time. Well, unless you want to call the assassin a person, but whoever that may be. And then I'm taking a massive cut because I'm basically stopping at when Oswald allegedly disappears from the Texas School Book Depository and is arrested in the Texas Theater. I don't touch Tippett. I don't touch Beckley, Tippett, and the Texas Theater. I have a certain amount of regret about not doing that, but I always was. Prayer Man was the main thing for me because
that
Prayer Man is.
I feel like with you, your focus is a lot of Oswald's interaction with law enforcement.
Yeah,
well, so I can see Man, you.
If Oswald is Prayer Man, which he is to me, but the whole deck of cards falls down because then you don't have an assassin. You've wrongly accused this person, so who did it? And then you've got a problem because everyone's dead and this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. So for 60 years, everybody's been fed this shit sandwich as such that Oswald was the lone nut killer. Now, to me, the picture, as a photographer, the stills point it to be Oswald. The stills we sent to Marina Oswald, and she volunteered it like it's Lee. We didn't even ask her. We sent her the pictures. Ed Ledoux called her up, and she just went, "It's Lee," without even asking her. So I was like, right. So, and she made it really simple. She said, "It's either him or the other guy." And the other guy, she of course meant Billy Lovelady, who was so-called doorway man.
Yeah.
Who everyone thought was Lee Oswald sticking his head out at that point. And then I basically make that I do this massive skip to the interrogations. I never expected the interrogation was going to be so big, but it's half the book is about the interrogation.
Yeah, you probably didn't expect that material was going to yield those kind of answers. Yeah.
No one done this before. This is another thing. No one has gone into the interrogations of Oswald with such detail before. Again, thanks to Malcolm Blunt. And it's something that I completely miscalculated how much work it was. I thought it was going to be the least work out of all the 4 papers back then. I thought, that'll be done. Because I remember after the second floor lunchroom paper, I thought, you know what? I'll start with the interrogations. There'll be a quick turnaround. Well, it wasn't, because first of all, I started at Christmas 2016, and then I released something, and I just thought, my God, I was in the hospital, and instead of watching TV series box sets after box set, I started typing, but I was heavily drugged on morphine and fentanyl. And I released it about 2 or 3 weeks after I came out of the hospital.
That's why it's such a fun read.
Well, no, that one was so bad because a month later I opened it up and I looked at it. Oh, my God. I was like, you were on drugs. And yeah, true. So I rewrote the whole thing. And then 9 months later, 2017, I did a talk in Canterbury again. And 2018. And I was like, okay. And then after that, I realized I'd done the approach wrong. So I had to redo the entire thing because I did it by individual. And I said, no, you need to put it in a timeline, a chronology. Yeah. So it meant that I had to copy and paste in a document that was more than 300 pages at that time. 350, I think.
Wow.
I had to copy and paste, cut and paste basically, and put everything in a timeline manner. That took ages. Again, it was torture. I didn't want to know about it. I had that document open every day, and sometimes I spent no time on it, and sometimes I spent hours on it. I just had it open all the time, and I just kept working on it gradually. I had so much material coming from Malcolm and from a few other archives that it just mushroomed. And I thought, well, you know what? Why don't I focus on that? Because during the interrogations, it's already clear that Oswald said, this is what happened, this is where I was, etc., etc. And then what all these so-called agents do, during that day, their movements and Oswald's movements through the DPD on the third corridor, and what's actually been done. And then you find that there's many things that don't add up at all. And then there's also that Oswald's being railroaded. Now, I'll give you a great example. Right? Yeah. Oswald is frisked in the car when they're driving in the unmarked car from the Texas Theater to City Hall.
Right.
Now, they take out his billfold and wallet, billfold they call it, and they call his name through to dispatch. Now, then that's done by Paul Bentley, who sat next to him.
Right.
Then there is Charles Truman Walker. Now, for those that have seen the photographs of Oswald being taken out of the Texas Theater, the photographs of Stuart Reed, there's a policeman that wears a white cap. That's Charles Truman Walker. Walker says in his HSCA that he frisked him real good. Okay, fine. So Bentley frisked him, and now Walker frisked him. Then Oswald gets interrogated. Then at 4 o'clock, 4:05, he gets taken down for the Helen Markham lineup. Now, then Elmer Boyd and Richard Sims frisk him again. And lo and behold, they find right. six bullets in his pocket.
That's exactly right, dude. You and I talked about that on the Dallas.
Yeah. Exactly. How the fuck is that possible? They have either two cops that lie or are the crummiest, stupidest cops ever created.
These cops missed all of that ammunition in his pocket.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or it's been inserted as such. Now, we know that Oswald said to Gus Rose that the gun was tossed at him. And George Applin, who was also inside the Texas Theater, also thought that the gun was tossed at him. He didn't take the gun from Beckley. There was no holster. That holster was a plant as well.
Yeah.
At Beckley. That's a plant. There's a lot of debate about Oswald ever actually living at Beckley. Greg Parker thinks he didn't live there. I think he did. But at the same time, I'm of the opinion that he didn't hold a gun there, because the women that worked there said there was no way that Oswald was having a gun in that room, because children were playing there. Yeah. There wasn't a lock on that door either. Okay, this is a really crappy room, which was just an annex of the actual communal living room area. There was just a little door open up, and there was just enough space for a bed, a cupboard, and a closet, and that was it. Nothing else. And it was never locked. So on top of that, and those women, they were snooping. Of course, they were snooping.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So there's no way the gun.
Because some guy like Oswald is definitely going to pique their interest.
Yeah. So when the cops go down there, they basically find this holster. Yeah, of course. So the frisking. That's one of those things where you just go, nah, it can't be. It's either one way or the other, and there's no gray area, in this. And I just fail to believe that Walker and Bentley didn't do a good job. And the bus ticket is the same thing. See, I am of the opinion that Roger Craig spoke the truth, that Oswald ran down the grassy slope to get into and being picked up in a car, and that car dropped him off at either Beckley or the Texas Theater. I don't know. That's still out in the open. But he didn't get on the bus. He wasn't there. That's another thing Get Ledoux did, and basically nailed it to the cross, that Oswald was never on that bus.
And you're talking about the Rambler that Deputy Roger Craig said that he saw. A guy comes down the embankment. It was Oswald, and jumped in the car, and it took off. Yeah.
What speaks for him is a front page article in the Dallas Times Herald on the 23rd, the morning edition.
Yeah.
Back then you'd had 3-4 editions a day of a newspaper. There was no internet. And so in that first edition of the 23rd, Craig is talking about this. and also talking about his encounter that Fritz wanted to disown during the Warren Commission testimony. That he walked in and identified him as the guy he saw coming down. And the thing is that Oswald left much later than people said he was. They said, he left 2-3 minutes after the assassination. Well, he didn't. He left about 12 to 15 minutes after.
Well, that makes sense, because if he's with all the chaos in Dealey Plaza, it's not going to be that easy for that car immediately after the assassination to get where he needs to be. Oswald he might have spent 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes, just waiting for the car to show up,
Well, the cops didn't get in until 8 or 10 minutes after.
Yeah.
Okay? So, and then there is a list made, and we call it the Revel list because it was sent to Jack Revel of the Criminal Intelligence Division. And Revel, he has a 2-page list, and Oswald and his Elspeth address are on the top of that list. Now, nobody could leave the building unless they gave their name, address, contact number, and then they could leave. And Oswald is on the top of that list.
Hey, Oswald's at the top of the damn list. Wow.
Yeah, because he was the first one that left the building.
You know what? That seems like a very important, very overlooked piece of evidence.
Yeah, the funny thing is that list is actually telling, because there are people that are not mentioned on it. Bill Shelley, for instance, is not mentioned on it. And Shelley left at 1:30 because he accompanied Denny Arce and Archie and Bonnie Ray Williams to the Dallas police.
Right.
Which is another thing. Shelley went with them, so they were treated right, because one was Hispanic and the other one was black. And I don't know, 60s Dallas. I don't know. So they had to make sure that they were treated correctly, and that's why they sent the foreman along. But I mean, that's speculation from my side, but at the same time, 60s Dallas, the racism thing and so forth. Yeah, it's more than likely he went along to make sure that it went smooth. On top of that, that list shows that Ruth Dean, who stood on the steps, she's all dressed in black with a black hat. They had a file on her. And I don't know about that further than that she's got a file number mentioned as such. So she was a person of interest, just like Joe Molina was a person of interest. And we also know that people were watched closely in the months after the assassination as such. So it's pretty full on. So, I mean, that whole thing about the frisking is one of the tasters I'll give you. I've had to cram in a lot of info. It's for the reader to click on the links and read more about it. I know most of them won't, but I just basically I do a lot of bullet pointing, keep it as concise as I possibly can, and people can dig in this stuff. It's all there to be clicked on, and Also, here's my final take.
Yeah,
Oswald's innocent of shooting Tippit and John F. Kennedy, but he was involved somehow, because I cannot reconcile the fact with Oswald leaving so quickly, going to a movie theater after the president has been shot. I just don't get that.
Hey, Bart, I agree with you.
Downright suspicious behavior.
I agree with you 100%. I think I speak for Rob as well. He didn't do it, but he knew damn well who did.
Yeah. Well, that I don't know about that. I don't know if he did, if he knew that, but I know that
he knew who set him
was
up.
Happening.
He knew who set him up
afterwards. Yeah. I mean, you know what? Oswald's got the fingerprints of intelligence all over him for all those years. Even when he was in Japan as a Marine, doing a Russian test, then coming back, then getting out of the Marines, coming back, and then basically defecting to Russia, and then coming back with a daughter of a Russian colonel. Is it colonel or major?
Yeah.
The whole thing is just what? When you try and get hold of certain documents, like the Holland America line documents, passenger list, and so forth, cannot get it. The fact that he was in England for how long and what he did, can't get that either. Helsinki, oh God, another massive enigma. You know what? I got so much stuff in the Malcolm Blunt. I could keep writing, publishing until my dying days. There's that much stuff, that much detail, and so forth. But I thought, you know what? I'll try and put all my points together for Oswald being Prayer Man, not just by looking at the picture, but also the paperwork and what others have said. I'll give you one extra bit, which was for those that are interested in this stuff and you want to see some cool videos, the Sixth Floor Museum has now put all their, well, I wouldn't say all, but a lot, about 470 odd videos online of their, God, what's the name of it?
Oral histories?
Yeah, oral histories. Yes, thank you.
Yes. Not the anal histories, but the oral histories.
Oral histories. Some of them were done early 90s. And I
believe the only anal history that the Sixth Floor has is Marina's. So
that's bad.
David Ferries hasn't been declassified yet.
We did laugh. Okay. So these histories, these are really good. I haven't come across a lot of new stuff, but one of them was pretty good, and that was, now I just have to look it up. Ken Biffle. Now, Ken Biffle was one of the journos who managed to get in when he walked in with the cops right there at the beginning. Him and the cameraman. Tom Allier, of course, was there. And there was one other reporter, if I'm not mistaken. And Ken Biffle knew of Oswald because he tried to interview him when he was in Russia. And Oswald hung the phone up after Marguerite made the call. And then he wanted to take over, and then the phone was hung up. But what he said, and I'll quote you this. So I say, Ken Biffle of the Dallas Morning News, in his oral history interview, says, I have wondered often if I ran past Lee Harvey Oswald. In fact, going in with the cops. And then a little later, he says, just a little point. You wouldn't have recognized Lee Oswald if you'd seen him, to which Biffle replies, no, I wouldn't have. I'd seen photographs of him, but I'm sure that was 3-4 years before, and I just blindsided him. So I wouldn't have made him out. I have wondered about that since, whether he may have been out front at the time we went in, but I wouldn't have known it. So just, there's that thing where you go, you do something, some sort of action, and then it's like something in the corner of your eye. And you can't really nail it, put the dot on the eye as such, but it's lingering in the back of your head. We go, it's possible that, but I wouldn't know for sure. And I thought, God, that's telling. That's really telling. I mean, it's not like, wow, there you go. There's another bit of evidence. But this is like a circumstantial thing where he's just thinking about it. Like, oh, it could have been that while I was walking up there. Eddie Piper, the same thing.
Yeah.
He always said it going up when he goes for the Warren Commission testimony. He said he may have gone up or gone out. And that was the first time he mentioned this as such. And that was interesting. Besides the paperwork, you know what? It's amazing that all these bits have come out. I mean, Fritz tried to hide his notes for 33 years before they finally came out in 1996, the ARB. And it was after his passing, because I think he passed in 84 or 85. So, another 12 years after his death. And then what's really weird is that the Hosty note that I published in 2019, in Feb 2019, was already known about in 1997, the beginning of 97. But no researcher picked up on it. Never made a mention of it.
Yeah.
Only Harold Weisberg made mention of it. And he started ranting about all kinds of stuff and just didn't see the forest through the tree through the forest.
And there's other examples of that very thing out there too, like the Walker film. You know?
Yeah. So, but it was and they just didn't pick up on it at all until I saw this document. And I remember that and it's really funny because Malcolm said, like, well, pick anything you want, open a drawer. And I was like, okay. And I opened the drawer, and there was a fat folder in there, and it said Hosty. And I was like, yeah, I'll start with this. Because I knew, like, oh, this falls within my remit. I'll have a look at this. And then I just went through it, and I saw all these handwritten notes. And they were all notes from Oswald's phone book, which also had Hosty's name and number in it. And then all of a sudden I see this note and this page, and this page was written on the back of Dallas Police affidavit paper, because that shone through the photocopy made of it. You could see it in mirror writing in the background, and I saw that on other pieces of sheets of paper as well. And from the book that Hosty wrote, he said he had a block of notes, and he went into the room and started taking down notes on the evidence that was there. And of course, there's no Hydel idea written down there. But then that pre-report that he made, and where Oswald basically stated that he was outside watching the presidential parade. And I shouted out loud. I said, gold, really, really, really loud. And Malcolm comes walking into the room. What? And I was like, this is fucking gold, mate. And I swear. And I just told, and I said, there you go. That's it. Those are the notes made by Hosty. Excuse me. Just before he made his report with Bookout. And he writes down that he did that as such. And then, of course, they abbreviated that, like Oswald said he was on the first floor when the motorcade went past.
Yeah.
He didn't say, he stood outside. See, that would have been the icing on the cake if that report actually mentioned that typewritten report said he'd been outside on
out
the
front,
landing.
yeah. If it had contained the words out front rather than just first floor, yeah.
And the people that listen to this and want to criticize me with better evidence, not your opinion. But on top of that, if you really want to know whether Oswald is Prayer Man, then get the fucking film. Get Darnell and Wiekman, so films, plural, get those two films and get it scanned in. And I am of the opinion that we're going to need some de-blurring done with artificial intelligence, which, contrary to beliefs, works pretty well. But as long as we get a high-res scan, and then we can do two things. Either the whole deck of cards just falls apart, or I can just throw all my books in the burner and just go, right, forget about it. And I know it's going to be option one, not option two. I can just walk away from it. It's the only thing with the subterfuge of evidence that I'm putting forward, that Oswald is Prayer Man, that Oswald was railroaded by the Dallas Police and everybody else connected to it as such. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing more left to say but then at that point. To me, the film, and for other RKC researchers, the film is the icing on the cake, the cherry on top.
Well,
Nothing
the cherry
more.
on top for us, Bart's going to be the publication of your book, guys. We can't wait, right, Rob?
That's right.
We can't wait.
Hey, Pocahontas, I gotta hit the head. It's time to play some promos. Chop, chop.
Okay, cool.
Goddamn, Momo.
Momo's got to go to the bathroom, apparently. So, you guys want to take a break?
Yes, cool.
All right, guys, we'll be back right after this. Hey, everybody, this is Doug.
And this is Rob, and we want to take a few to tell you about a book, an analytical study, if you will. This is a must-read for anyone wishing to separate good information from misinformation when studying the JFK assassination. And that book is Judith Very Baker, In Her Own Words, by Dr. Walt Brown, Ph.D., available now from Campania Publishing Partners.
The stories and out-and-out myths told by Baker are controversial, to say the least. And in this book, Dr. Brown gives analysis of Baker's own words as published in her own books, using logic and reason and intellectual vigor to see if Baker's claims add up and stand up.
As fantastical and amusing as they are damaging to our mission, the claims made by Baker over the years that Dr. Brown scrutinizes in his new book, Judith Very Baker, In Her Own Words, from Campania Publishing Partners, include countless admissions throughout the text of her books of the commission of felonies by Baker herself, that New Orleans pervert and friend of Lee Harvey Oswald, David Ferry, couldn't fly his airplane without Oswald.
And that the Secret Service actually enlisted the help of Lee Oswald in preparing for Kennedy's visit to ferret out alleged sniper's nests or potential sniper's nests, that Lee Oswald carried uranium in his children's diaper bag as part of some nefarious plot involving rogue scientists.
That she once successfully impersonated a pregnant Marina Oswald, and that Lee Oswald conducted target practice with live ammo in broad daylight in a public park on weekdays, shooting leaves off of trees. And of course, that she repeatedly had sexual intercourse with Lee Harvey Oswald in 1963.
That's Judith Very Baker, In Her Own Words, by Dr. Walt Brown, a critical analysis of the allegations that have divided a research community for years, available now from Campania Publishing Partners.
Find it now at Amazon in both Kindle, which is very affordable at $2.99, and paperback editions. That's Judith Very Baker, In Her Own Words, edited and with commentary by Dr. Walt Brown, using fact to fight fiction. Get your copy today.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. Now that all our bladders are depleted, our bladders are much gladder. And we'll hand it off to Doug. What you got, buddy?
All right. Thank you very much, sir. Okay, guys, I've got a couple of quick items, quick hits, if you will, for everyone. Then we'll get into
shits.
Yeah, quick shits. And then we'll get into a message from a listener who has nominated a YouTube host, another YouTube host, for a segment of That's Dumb Shit. And so we'll see if that qualifies. But first,
hey,
guys,
Doug,
yes,
real
sir.
quick.
Uh-huh.
You know, I set this meeting up for Bart specifically, and I named the room, and he didn't even fucking say anything about it.
I saw that.
The link, the name of the room, I named it just for him.
I know.
Did you see that, Bart?
Well, I'm back to retort.
I did. That was clever, Rob. I think we ought to name all
Thank
of them
you.
that from moving forward.
All right. Duly noted.
Duly noted. Have you guys heard of a new YouTube channel called Ghosts of the Spy Wars?
Yeah, that's Newman.
Newman, that's right.
Newman, yeah.
By Dr. Make
I
our
call him
audience
Uncle Johnny.
do what?
Yeah. I call him Uncle Johnny.
Uncle Johnny.
Uncle Johnny.
He hey, I want to make our audience aware of this because they need to check it out. Dr. Newman is basically uploading graduate level university lectures on his research into the Kennedy assassination over the years here.
On YouTube.
I highly, highly recommend it, guys. YouTube, Ghosts of the Spy Wars by Dr. John Newman. But a heads up, you got to pay attention. This is loaded with very, very detailed and nuanced information.
It's very deep, yeah.
What are you doing, step bro?
Bart, friend of yours, there's more true info, nuance. The fuck is nuance? Nuance and context in one of Dr. Newman's presentations here than in every published Kennedy's and King article combined and squared, okay? Check out John Newman. some of the presentations uploaded so far, answering Bagley's call about Malcolm Blunt and his friend Pete Bagley, Oswald's defection to the USSR, how and why his files were hidden. That one alone is a 40-minute presentation. On the trail of a Vietnam deception, Colonel Howard Burris, Gurus of the Spy Wars, and on and on. Angleton versus Golitsyn. Guys, lots of really great, really, really detailed history in this.
The documentation is at Malcolm Blunt's about all these subjects you all mentioned.
Yeah.
It's all there.
It's all there. Every bit of it's there, guys.
Yeah, it's all there.
Check it out. Now, I encourage everyone to subscribe and enroll in this. Again, Ghosts of the Spy Wars by John M. Newman on YouTube. Also, I want to point out to you guys and the listeners a new article published at a new assassination research blog. There's a new blogger out there, jfktodaynews.blogspot.com is the website. And it's a young lady, I believe, writing under the name A. Xavier. Now, as we all know, when Lee Harvey Oswald defected to the Soviet Union, he did so through the city of Helsinki. Well, everybody go over and check out this article that is over there. Oswald in Helsinki, Colonel Bjork and Army Intelligence. Go check it out. It's a good article. There's also an article up there that's newer about an Army Intelligence colonel named J.D. Wilmoth, who came in contact with Ruth Payne and Marina Oswald and a couple of other ones over there. But I wanted to point... Do what?
Sounds interesting.
It's very interesting and very well written.
And you know what, Doug?
What?
The synchronicity that happens with this fucking show, I tell you, it blows my mind every time.
Were you going to bring it up too?
No. We actually have some emails from Angela Xavier, when we get to the emails today. So,
damn, that's awesome. Can't wait to hear them. Yeah, well, hello, Angela. How you doing? I think Angela sent me a message a couple days ago that I haven't responded. I should probably do that when we get done here. But everybody, go check out our website, jfktodaynews.blogspot.com. You'll learn something new because the word Dulles isn't there. You'll learn something new. Now, the last thing I had for you guys, and this is also from YouTube, okay?
Tens of people read his book.
Tens of people read that book.
Remind me to ask you who the fuck we're talking about.
I'll let you know.
Okay.
I'll let you know.
Okay. I got to know.
Now, the next thing was brought to my attention by a listener. All right. A listener named Devin Stevens from Croydon. So he's like Bart's neighbor.
Well, not really, but I live north. He lives south. Yeah, but okay. Fair enough.
Devin's in the Taint area.
Yeah. Well, you're more so his neighbor than we are. I'm just saying.
True.
Yeah.
What's up, Devin?
What's up, Devin? I'm going to read his message, okay? Hey, Doug. Greetings from Croydon. Love the show. Also, an avid listener to the Lone Gunman podcast and Quick Hits. Well, thanks, dude. Appreciate that, bro.
Yes, sir.
You guys are constantly barraging me with new quality information, so much so that it's difficult to absorb it all. I'm especially grateful for the peeling away of the facade of L. Fletcher Prouty, who may have been the CIA's single most effective instrument of disinformation over the past 60 years. The reason for my message is to pass along, let me turn my page here, a bit of pseudo-analysis, faux research, if you will. And he puts here in parenthetically, he writes, add French croissant audio here. So let's do that for him. Le croissant. There you go, buddy. There you go. Okay, there you go, Devin. I feel you and Mr. Clark will surely have a laugh over this. In the link below, the hosts are analyzing and discussing the audio recording that is supposedly of David Ferry. At the 7:44 mark, the hosts discuss whether they believe this recording was of the actual Ferry and why. Doug, it's as if neither have ever seen a Joe Pesci movie other than Oliver Stone's JFK. You'll see what I mean. It's pretty comical. Who knows? This may even qualify for an episode of Dumb Shit. Hope you enjoy.
Well, it does.
It might. Hope you enjoy. Again, love the show. Cheers, Devin Stevens. Okay, Devin, let's see if it qualifies. Now, the link he sent me, guys, is to an episode of America's Untold Stories called David Ferry Unraveling the Oddball from July of last year. Now, Rob, you played this Ferry recording on the Lone Gunman podcast a while back, right?
No, I believe I played it on a guest host spot on the Midnight Rider show.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Well, I have some of it here. Now, Bart, you say you've not heard this?
No.
Okay. Well, let's play
This
a bit.
is actually David Ferry talking.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is alleged to be the actual David Ferry. I assume it's some sort of recorded deposition in regard to his Eastern Airlines thing when he was fired for, the young boy stuff. But anyway, let's play a bit of this supposed audio of David Ferry, and we'll set the table from everybody. No, Rob, you actually did. In my notes, it says that this soundbite is from the Lone Gunman podcast, episode 104. So...
Oh, well, shit. Okay.
Well, damn. All right, here. This is allegedly a surfaced audio recording of the real David Ferry. Let's give it a listen.
Anytime you say. All right. On the evening of Saturday, August the 5th, 1961, one Alexander Landry Jr. of 5221 Art Street, small aeronautical cruise which I commanded, appeared at my home in the presence of two witnesses, namely one Leo Bevan and one Leighton P. Martins. He told of his increasing and real difficulties with his parents, primarily his mother. These family problems have arisen from the obvious psychological pattern of the mother.
Okay, so that's just a little sample of what is.
That's horrible quality, first of all, and then also the speed, it fluctuates.
It fluctuates a little. It makes the voice deep. I think maybe deeper than it should be.
It's 60 fucking years old, Bart. I mean,
No, I don't care. We live in a digital world. Sort this out. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Can I just say one? Oh, yeah. Sorry.
No,
Sorry
go
to
ahead.
interrupt.
Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
What was the gentleman's name from Croydon?
Devin Stevens.
Okay, Devin, Mr. Devin Stevens. Why aren't you a member of Dealey Plaza UK yet?
Dude.
Please go to Dealey Plaza.
Yeah, Devin, join. Shit.
So, anyway.
There you go.
Sorry. Shameless
You
advertising.
can tell them
but-
you know Bart, Rob, and Doug. They'll let you right in.
Yeah, exactly.
You
The
can tell
door's
them,
open.
hey, just say, hey, I'm Devin fucking Stevens. Bart knows me.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's all you got to say.
Yeah. First round of drinking.
I'm Devin
on you.
fucking Stevens.
Oh, I'm Devin in it. That's my
Devin
favorite.
fucking, mate.
No, you two stop doing English accents.
My favorite English word. Dude, my favorite British word is in it. INNIT. Yeah, in it. Okay.
People from Manchester use that. In it.
Now, here's what we're gonna listen
The
to
American
now.
Cloven Oak, ain't it?
Here is the aforementioned analysis of the fairy voice from America's Untold Stories. Check this out.
You mean the
I wonder where
It does not sound like anybody envisions him to be.
Well, there are tapes of him, and Pesci listened to him, and other people said he had this high nasal voice that went through his nose. So that's where Pesci got that voice from. He didn't make that up out of thin air. I mean,
that's what a nasal voice does. It goes through the nose.
So
Brain
Pesci, according to this guy, got the high nasal voice he used in Stone's 1991 film from listening to actual tapes of the actual David Ferry. I think, Devin, you are on to something, buddy. Now, here's a quick sample of Joe Pesci as David Ferry in this high nasally voice that this host claims that Pesci got from actual tapes of David Ferry. Here is Pesci as Ferry from Stone's film.
We were told that you took a trip to Texas shortly after the assassination on Friday.
Yeah, now that's true. I drove to Houston.
What was so appealing about Houston?
I hadn't been there ice skating in many years, and I was with a couple of young friends, and we decided we wanted to go ice skating.
Okay. Now, this is the next soundbite, guys, is Joe Pesci 11 years earlier in Raging Bull.
He got out of line, I slapped him around, Tommy straightened it all out, and it's all over.
Oh, wait. Here we go. Joe Pesci and Goodfellas.
It's the fucking drink back here. Hello, prick. Hey, what's that movie that Bogart made?
Which one?
The one where he played a cowboy. Only did one.
The Oklahoma Kid.
Shane? Oklahoma Kid. Shane. Oklahoma Kid. That's me. I'm the Oklahoma Kid. Yeah, fucking Bart.
Joe Pesci as David Ferry.
Shit. This is too fucking big for you. You know that? This is who did the president? Who killed Kennedy? Fuck, man. It's a mystery. It's a mystery wrapped in a riddle. It's not an enigma.
He got the nasally voice, remember, high nasally voice from tapes of David Ferry. Here's Pesci in Home Alone.
That's it! That's it! I'm going around the front, you go down the basement.
Pesci in Lethal Weapon.
What they're doing, kid, they fuck you with cell phones. That's what it is. They're fucking you with the cell phone. They love when you get cut off. You know why? Huh? You know why? Because when you call back, which they know you're going to do, they charge you for that fucking first minute again at that high rate. If
Joe Pesci is David Ferry.
Get it? Fuck, man! I can't keep talking like this. You're gonna fucking kill me!
Now, guys,
I'm a dead man.
I don't think Joe Pesci got that high-pitched nasally voice from listening to tapes of David Ferry. Bart, you know where I think Joe Pesci got that voice?
From Joe Pesci.
From Joe fucking goddamn Pesci. That's
Thank
who.
you. Mystery solved.
Jesus
Next.
Christ.
God damn.
Really? Devin Stevens. You're exactly right, bro. It qualifies. I said it qualifies.
Fuck that shit. That's dumb shit.
Yeah, indeed it is. Dude, you were only about 5 seconds fucking late with that soundbite drop. It sounded pretty goddamn stupid.
Hey, it's your show. What do I care?
Yeah, I know, motherfucker. I know.
Momo's on fire today.
He's on fire. Yeah, I heard that. Well, that's all I had for you guys. So what do you think? Do you think it's possible that old Joe Pesci got that voice from listening to actual tapes of David Ferry, or is that just dumb shit?
Well, you can give it the death knell if you were to contact one of the producers of JFK. They'd probably tell you right there and then that it's dumb shit.
The ears don't lie, Bart.
Mm-hmm.
The ears don't lie, neither do the digital files, by God. They tell the truth.
I mean, that guy on the audio, even if the speed was all over the place, never sounded like that.
No. I agree 100%. So
sounded like he had a little trauma to the throat. You know what I'm saying? Talk like this. I keep all these young boys around me here. One of them was Leighton Martins, and
that's got to be the title.
In my mouth.
That's got to be the title of this episode, Rob. Trauma to the throat.
Well, you know what, Doug? It's funny you play that clip, because I actually had an interaction with one of these guys that hosts this podcast as well. As you know, on my other channel, the Lone Gunman from the Vault, right? I grab various audio shows, interviews, other stuff, kind of repackage it and put it out there. Things that, kind of need to be heard again, or things that I think were done well. Or maybe
absolutely
not heard of enough, guest spots on other shows, whatever, just whatever. It's a potpourri channel, just whatever. Well, probably a year ago, I uploaded a random show, a podcast that I had heard about Tippett. And at the time, I didn't know really where it even came from, to be honest with you. I just put it out there. Well, a year later, one of the podcast hosts in the comment section, "Hey, bro.
He broed you?
We'd appreciate it." He broed me.
He broed
"Hey,
you.
bro.
Oh, fuck, man.
We'd appreciate it if you didn't steal our audio and upload it as your own." So here's what I did. I said, "Oh, no, you're right, bro." I said, "Sorry about that." I said, "All the information in here is probably fucking wrong anyway.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and delete it. And trust me, it'll never, ever fucking happen again." So I did. I deleted the fucking show off my channel. So fuck them.
Well, I would have. I mean, it's just, it's, what are you going to do, right?
I didn't say it was me. I didn't say it was my show. I never, I didn't say anything. It's just straight up audio from the podcast.
Well, but you know,
which some people would see as a, what do you call it? Like when people are all the time, re-uploading things.
It's a tip of the hat, is what it is.
Yeah, it's a tip of the hat saying, "Hey,
Well, back to their Pesci got the nasal voice from Tapes of Fairy thing. I've said it before on the Dallas Action. I'll say it again here. Look, and I guess it's because, they do like a show a day on something, and I understand there's a lot of time to fill. You need a lot of content. But just because it comes into your head don't mean you got to say it. And this shit is way too complicated as it is without people just making shit up. It's really that simple. Just don't make shit up.
Oh, you know what?
Just don't make shit up.
Subject. This is a great subject because
or do a little research.
I tell you what, because that's the thing. That's what Malcolm told me. He says every time you go online and you start slagging people or things off, this, that, and the other, you're not researching. So every minute wasted on just going on these forums and going ballistic, you're basically should be researching instead. And I thought, okay, you got a fair point. But once in a while, some people deserve to be lambasted for the utter shit they come up with.
Yeah, it's fun.
Right, Brian? So basically, they need to be told off for doing that.
Sometimes you got to call that shit out.
You know what? Everybody makes it sound like the government and NAR are the enemy because they're not releasing all the documents, this, that, and the other. Well, I'll tell you what, conspiracy theories amongst themselves are their own biggest enemy of the whole thing. It's unbelievable. And you know what? It happened back in the 60s, and it happened in the 90s, and all the decades in between and after, and it's still going on now on the Education Forum. There's this group it's a Google group called Alt Assassination or Alt Conspiracy.
Oh, Jesus.
My God, what a cesspit. There's no moderation. Yeah. And my God, it's just unbelievable.
I am gleefully unaware of that mess. Or I'm aware of it. I'm
going to send you the link. You can click on it and you'll see after 30 seconds and you'll close it down and you close that tab down because stuff that's there is no research done. What they do is rehash old stuff and it's just lone nutters versus conspiracy twits. And, they're just lambast each other up to the yazoo. And, you know what? At RKC, they've got very little tolerance for any of it. There is a section called Debunked. I'm not a fan of that. I'm not really a big fan of it. I've participated in it in some of the things. Sometimes I just can't help myself. And if I want to give Lone Nutter scum a fucking running a seeing to, then I will do that. But because of the stupidity that's sometimes being used, and I've got the evidence to prove it. Otherwise, I wouldn't bother because I don't.
I've never heard of that forum either.
Sorry,
I said I've never heard of that forum
either. So it's in the end, to some people it's entertainment, and to some people it's just a complete waste of time. And I'm hanging in between because I used to be quite in the middle of it, but not much these days because the time that I have left, I just like to spend on putting this damn book together.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Get to a point where I go, you know what, fuck off, because if that is what you know, I believe that, I think that, I don't give a fuck what you think or what you believe. Your beliefs are worth shit. What I would like to see, this is what happened. This document says this document says that. Look at this video, because this person who's identified as such and such does this. That contradicts what he's saying in this document. Oh, right, okay, that's interesting. Now I can say, you know what? I can work with that. I'm listening to that. But no. Then there's certain individuals, whether they're on the lone nutter or on the conspiracy twat side, basically just go, well, you know, I believe and I think that. It's just... shut up already. I mean,
on Facebook, I saw this random group. I don't know what group it was, but somebody made a post to the administrator, you know, please kick Ralph Sinkay out of this group. He doesn't, he posts too much and it's all nonsense and this and that. So I replied, I said, hey man, I said, the block button works wonders. I've had Ralph Sinkay blocked for 8 years and my life is much better for it.
Shall I tell you, I'll tell you a big secret, which just won't be a secret anymore now. I think I've got about 120 or between 120 and 150 people blocked. Now, maybe 30-40% is low nutter scum. And then on the other side, you've got all these fuckhead.
Oh, yeah.
Conspiracy
block button works
twits.
wonders.
Yeah,
It's
man, I'm up to
amazing.
I'm up to probably 75. And some of them are people who believe in conspiracy in the case. I can't handle them. Don't want them anywhere, you know.
I mean, they never put any, or the ones that say, well, the CIA did it. Yeah, right? Really? Okay. Line it up for me then and tell me how they did do it. Yeah, well, you know, I believe, and I don't give a fuck about what you believe. I don't care. Fuck off. Fuck off right now. Because it's just like it gets
or the ones that and it's going on in the ed form. You know, you're like, well, everything that guy, you know, and I'm just an example here. We'll say everything X witness says has pretty much been proven false. They say, well, you obviously need to read his book, and you go, wait, ho, here that it's going on with Prouty now in the ed form. You know, well, look, it's not that I haven't read the book; it's that I have exhaustively, right? And that's the point. It's like, dude, well, you don't believe him, you need to read the book. You need to buy this book. Well, that's the thing. I've read the book. It's all the other shit that says different. Well, no. Well, then you need to read the book again. It's like,
you know what?
Do you have any evidence to back up the shit he's saying other than his book?
Of course not.
Of course. Read the book. It's like, fuck, you ninny. And that's generally, if I'm going to call anybody out nowadays, it's usually something to do with that subject.
Черное оперативное радио.
You know, something to do with that subject.
What was that? That was Japanese, yeah.
No, that was Russian. You all right, Rob? You
All
ready
right,
to read
Doug,
some
you ready to
emails?
do some emails?
I am. Where is the... There it is.
Wait.
Email time. Kick it, Rob.
All right, let me reach down here and feel around my sack. All right. As I said, okay, here we go. Angela.
Is it
you're
still
right on
blue?
top of the sack. Yeah, very. Swollen and blue. Angela, from the website, what, Doug? JFKnewstoday.blogspot.com?
It is on the previous page of my notes, but it sounds right. Let me flip back here. No, it's even on the other previous page. Holy shit. It's like 4 pages back here. Hang on. Yes, that's it. You got it right.
Okay. She says, hey, guys, love your shows. I've been a long-time student of the assassination, and the more I study, the more I gravitate toward your viewpoint that the JFK hit emerged more from a military intelligence, military-industrial side of the house with some rogue CIA involvement. But the pains are a real pain in my ass. I don't know what to make of them. The pains are where the rubber meets the road in placing Oswald prior to the hit and them framing him afterwards. I see plenty of military-industrial connections through Mike Payne and Bell Helicopter, but I also see old-school CIA connections with Michael's connections to Alan Dulles and Roos family CIA activities. What are your thoughts on the Paynes? Doug?
I think that Ruth Payne is much the way that I described Oswald in the immediate aftermath of the assassination, in that she probably wasn't a party to anything nefarious knowingly. Well, that she's different than Oswald in that respect. Let me back up. I think she knows. She's got a damn good idea who set him up. But I don't think that they were ever privy to the fact that whatever handling they were doing of Oswald was in the context of an upcoming presidential assassination. You know, like, we're going to kill the president and we need you to get this guy a job somewhere or whatever. You know, it's probably way more nuanced than that. But it's a mystery. Oh my God. How do they plug in, I guess, is what she's asking. And I wish I had a good answer, honestly.
Bart, what do you think of the Paynes?
A lot of people are really easy to judge and talk to them that they're working for the agency. No one's ever produced any documentation as such confirming that. There is something about them that just doesn't sound or feel right. I thought the documentary on Ruth Payne, I forgot the guy's name, but he spent quite a few years on it. And it was the last 15 minutes where he was actually asking the real questions. And because I thought the first hour was just pampering along. And maybe that was the idea, gain their trust.
Yeah.
The thing for me was Ruth Payne's reaction, where she tells the same fucking story for 60 years in the exact same way, with the exact same emotion.
Dude, word for word,
the exact same points.
The same emphasis on syllables and.
Well, maybe she was well trained. I mean,
well rehearsed for sure.
But they weren't poor people. I mean, like the documentary states, you know, they had access to money. Money wasn't a problem.
Well, didn't Michael was, you know, his family, he was basically a trust fund guy, and had access to lots and lots of money, but according to Ruth Payne, for ideological reasons, he didn't want it. He wouldn't touch that trust fund money. I think that was in that movie. Her talking.
Well, that
about
car
that.
he bought for the Oswalds, he bought for $200, and he paid for it $100 at a time, so he wouldn't have to pay taxes on it. So he's a really cheap some bitch.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, I mean, I find the thing is also I haven't really delved into Ruth Payne much. You know, of course, the whole thing with Marina. I mean, I'd love to talk to Marina one day and ask her, like, because the thing is, they were there, they were doing things, and then all of a sudden she's being taken in by Secret Service, taken away, this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. And if I recall correctly, they never had contact ever again after that. So that's kind of interesting, especially though I don't think they live far away from each other. There must be some sense of betrayal between the two. There must be something that's just, but you know, it's guesswork. There's a fair bit of documentation. You know what? I would have liked it more if the documentation was used. You see, I see all these interviews, and then it's like that the interviewer has absolutely very little idea of what actually the person did and how and when and this, that, and the other, by not actually looking at the documentation, but looking at books instead. And the issue is that when you read a book, and this is what Malcolm said as well, you read the writer's interpretation of the documentation.
Yep.
Whereas
100%.
It's actually what you should do is to read the documentation for yourself, because there are always angles in them that the particular author didn't touch and you all of a sudden see as such. That's one of the reasons why I basically refer to all the documentation, and I'm not going to basically I don't add a lot of opinion to it, only make question marks or exclamation marks or say like, well, why would they do that, such and such. Other than that, I just keep things to the surface for others basically to look at and say, okay, make up your own mind. Look at the document yourself. You can make up your own mind as such, instead of trying to force feed people as such. The people are adults enough to figure it out for themselves. Stop treating them like dumb fucks. So, and I don't see that reflected in interviews. And I remember William Law. He got an interview with Jim Lavelle when he was 99, about a year and a bit before, or 98. It was about a year and a bit before Lavelle passed away. And I was like, I felt like, when you have that moment where you just want to go through the cement of the tarmac and just, oh my God, and just go underground, because it was like a brilliant opportunity, because I could have said, like, well, hit him with that, because Lavelle lied, and this has also been bullshitting for decades that he interrogated Oswald when he never did, because in his own report and in the Warren Commission, he states that he never interrogated him until Sunday morning as such. And, those bits. And that's what I admire John Newman, because John Newman doesn't do a lot of interviews, but was it Jane Roman he spoke to? And he nailed her. He nailed her completely. And, of course, that pissed her off, but there was no way out, because he put the document right in front of her and said, well, what about this? And she signed off on stuff regarding Oswald and Mexico City. And Jane Roman was really like, what was it, Ann Egerton? I've always mixed them up.
Yeah, that was Roman. Yeah, that was Roman.
Was it Roman? Okay, right. And he just nailed her there and then. And then you've got a CIA operative who was who was like Win Scott's second or right hand or whatever. She was involved in the whole thing, knew about it, and it's like, right, boom, and just nails her. And I just thought, yeah, that was brilliant. That's like proper interviewing, because then it's like, oh, yeah, you've got me now. I can't wing my way out of this one. And that's the thing I like about, especially in this case, that if you do interview someone, do you know your stuff? Have you found all the possible documentation that you can find and can use in that particular interview as such? And then, because there's a lot of books out, like Larry Sneed's book, he just lets them talk and they just drum out the story they want to convey, not the story it ought to be conveyed. But, and that to me is like, well, for at least 50%, that's just a waste of time.
Yeah. All right, next up, we got another email from Angela. Hey, guys.
Hey, Angela.
First of all, I want to thank you, two, for not dealing in horse shit, such as that from Judith Very Bonkers and Boner Meningitis. Much like an unpleasant and
meningitis.
Bonar Meninger.
I'm not familiar with
no, am I.
Mr. Spider Bit.
I think he's the guy that wrote about the Secret Service agent in the Queen Mary shooting accidentally JFK in the head.
Oh my gosh!
Says,
Uncle Vince, cousin Vince doesn't even subscribe to that. So.
Well, wait till just give him till next week. It'll come around.
Yeah, much like an unpleasant and disfiguring disease, the Meninger theory at one time infected the research community with the absurd notion that the fatal headshot was accidentally fired by a Secret Service agent in the car behind JFK's. Anyhow, thanks for using critical thinking and logic to cut through the bullshit. Now for my question. I've been thinking back to something Jerry Patrick Hemming once said, something to the effect that a dozen different financiers all think that they paid for the Kennedy hit. It's one of the few things I've ever heard him say that I don't think was bullshit. Do you think it's possible or even probable that there were multiple plots against Kennedy that happened to converge in Dallas on that day? Several plots converging would explain the obvious Cuban exile presence in Dealey Plaza, the involvement of Ruby, as well as the involvement of wealthy, well-connected people with deep ties to the intelligence, security, state, and military-industrial complex. Several factions had a serious hard-on for JFK. Dallas was fertile ground to nurture a successful hit, and multiple plotters would have realized that. The more I study the assassination, the more I have a nagging suspicion that multiple plots converged in Dallas. Your thoughts?
You mean unbeknownst to the other plots? Like,
like Tosh Plumlee.
Maybe they even knew about other people. She's saying like 12 financiers, so maybe these people got together and said, all right, we'll put some guys out there. We'll put some guys out there. We'll put some guys out there and let them fly. And one of us got to work,
That it bothers me because that's a lot of guys.
Yeah.
That's a lot of guys.
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of suspicious elements in Dealey Plaza that day, for sure. You got military intelligence guys, people acting like Secret Service agents. You had Dallas PD on the ground. You had weird people moving around in cars and seen leaving buildings and arrested in Dealey Plaza. So
everything looks suspicious to everyone. So that's another thing.
Yeah.
People see snipers everywhere. And the fact that, look, when you look at Daltex, for instance, yeah. So what's his name who got arrested there, came out, Air Force guy. And he basically just got snitched and ratted out just because when he left the building, somebody leaned out the window, go on and get him because he's, he needs to be arrested, blah, 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 and got ratted out. That whole mentality of snitching people out, it's still prevalent these days. Oh, my God, I've seen so many videos on Facebook and YouTube about people getting ratted out because they just walk past a house or a building and all of a sudden, they're suspicious. Let's call the cops, this, that, and the other. Which is a really strange thing. Where I am, that doesn't exist. And it's not that we're perfect, but that whole mentality just doesn't exist. And these so-called people, and on top of that, you have all these fantasists that come up with all this stuff, such and such from the agency was there, and he stood there, and there's David Morales, and there's blah, blah. Do you actually think that these people who were in the agency are actually just standing there amongst the crowd to look whether the operation is going to be successful or not? Really? Yeah. Do you really think that? So, I mean, use your common sense, Gumbo.
All right, next up we got
Angela. Wait, let's do this. Angela, the viewpoints asserted by Bart Kamp do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of the host.
No, I said Gumbo, not Dumbo, but I said Gumbo.
Yeah.
The thing is that that wasn't meant specifically at her. It's just generic. Yeah, I'm not apologizing for anything, but it's just my experience of how much stuff. A lot of people see so many things. Yeah. Yes, Brian, you too. See things that basically don't exist. Only in their feeble brains, they only think. Look, I've been there. I've thought stuff and went this, that, and the other. But you know what? The beauty of research, is being proven wrong, and just basically go, I was wrong about that. And then also have the balls, the cojones to say, you know what? I was wrong about that. But guess what? I've got something else that's even more interesting to look into and research as such than just stick to a cemented belief. And then I come across people who get incredibly angry, which is quite funny to me, when you prove them wrong. When you go, yo, man, you're dead wrong because I've got a document here, this, that, and the other. I can come up with examples, but I'm not doing it. I take great pleasure in the fact that when conspiracy theories are proven wrong, not just by me, some of the Lone Nuther scum does a very effective job on that as well. They basically just sometimes just knock these conspiracy theorists out of the ballpark with just really simple facts. So, it's not all bad what Lone Nuther scum does. Sometimes they're really doing a good thing. And,
it is.
And correct these people as such. So again, they're just it's my opinion, not from Doug and not from Rob.
All right, next up we had some emails from Lisa, which I stole and did a whole episode on the Lone Gunman for. If you'd like to hear that, go back and listen to the Lone Gunman episode, something 220-something called TikTok, and you don't stop. So thank you, Lisa, for sending those emails in.
Thank you, Lisa. You got me out of here about 10 minutes earlier, girl. Thanks. I appreciate that.
All right, next up, we got one from our old buddy, Joey B.
Joey B, what up, Joe? He sent me a document last week I'm supposed to read, but haven't. Sorry, Joe. I will, I promise.
Yeah, he's slacking. He says, hi, guys. Happy Quick Hits weekend. My question today is for Bart. And Bart, if you didn't know, Joey is famous for sending questions in at the last minute. And I told him you were going to be on the show, so he's got a question for you.
Hit me.
He says, I am currently doing some research on all the Martins that pop up on the assassination, and knowing you are an expert on all things TSBD and DPD, I was wondering during your studies into the employees of the TSBD, including the publisher's office, if you had ever come across anyone with the last name Martin who worked in that building. Regarding the DPD, obviously the most notable is BJ Martin, Billy Joe Martin, who was in the rear of JFK's limo, who had brains and blood splattered all over him. But Rob and I also recently found a Captain Frank Martin and a Jackie Martin in the DPD as well. If you have any documents relating to any of those three DPD officers, please send them Rob's way. That would be extremely helpful. We have also found it incredibly hard to compile pictures of all these Martins, whether they were scrubbed or not taken at all. So I wanted to ask you, based on your years of scanning and research, have you ever come across pictures of any of these police officers? And if not, how could we go about finding pictures of them? You'd think it would be easy and maybe in their personnel file, but we all know who ran that department, Superman and hero cop Captain Westbrook, so I'm not optimistic. Anyways, I wanted to thank you, Bart, for your decades of work you've done to preserve documents that will make it easier for the younger generation of students to maybe figure out this mystery wrapped in a riddle inside of an enigma. Synchronicity, one day. Cheers and thank you, best Joey B. Now, Bart, I've asked you some questions. So behind the scenes, me and Joey are kind of working on something big for the 60th. And
the Martins.
The Martins thing. So, and I realize that some of them are coincidental. Some of them are, not all of them are nefarious. But it's just interesting, when you go to looking into this shit and it's like, oh my God, we keep finding all this stuff. And it's going to be crazy and cool when we're done and everybody's going to love it because it's something really nobody's ever looked at in depth like this.
It's always
before.
Interesting. Yeah, that's always interesting.
Like Frank Martin, okay? He was a captain in the Dallas Police Department, okay? Nobody's ever heard of this motherfucker, right? But during his Warren Commission deposition on March 24th, 1964, he told Warren counsel Leon Hubert that there were things he should not state for the record, but from contacts they related to Ruby's transfer and not the teenager with a pistol. Hubert says, now, Captain Martin, is there anything else you would like to say concerning any aspect of this matter at all? Martin says, I don't take this down. Hubert says, well, if you don't want to say it on the record, you better not say it at all. And Martin says, well, there's a lot to be said, sir, but probably be better if I don't say it. Hubert says, well, I don't know what you mean by that. Martin says, well, Hubert says that it would be better. What are we seeking to find out is the facts on it. And Martin says, I understand. Hubert says, if what you have to say is more or less a matter of opinion, that's one thing. I don't want to ask you to express your opinion, but any facts you know that you think you might bear upon this matter, I would ask that you state those facts. And Martin says, well, there is not but one thing that I could say about the whole business. Of course, we are not expected or experienced in handling this sort of a prisoner. I don't guess anybody is, as far as that goes, but the way I saw it, there was no organization at all. I didn't know who was in charge or anything about it. I don't guess anybody, either people should have been told something, what to do, what to expect. We weren't. And he seems to want to say something, but he won't. And it's just kind of odd, just odd behavior from, certain figures, Bart.
Well,
so back to Joey's question. Have you ever come across any?
No. You know what? My remit for myself when it comes to research is only the people that were surrounding Oswald while he was being interrogated. I don't care about the coppers that were inside the TSBD or the ATF agents and so forth, FBI and so forth, only when it is in direct relation to Oswald. I don't have that luxury to divert or get my attention diverted. I'm trying to be as concise and precise and focused as possible on Oswald's last 48 hours and what happened around him and who was involved with him. Even that by itself is roughly about 100, 120 people, which is enough for my liking. And I mean, there's plenty of other avenues to explore, but if I do that, I divert my time that should be just primarily focused. I mean, if you're talking about the last name Martin, you've got Jack Martin, from New Orleans. You've got Shirley Martin, who is a brilliant researcher who was only doing it for a few years. Think about it. She lived in Oklahoma. She put all her 5 kids in a car and just drove down to Dallas to investigate. You've got James Herbert Martin, who's in some relation with Marina Oswald.
Oh, he fucked her.
Sorry?
He fucked her.
Oh, right. And then you've got John Martin, the filmmaker. So, and that's
literally,
not
metaphorically. Actually, they had sex.
Yeah, okay. So those are the Martins I know of and that are present in the archives.
Well, guess what, Bart? Guess what?
What?
We're already up to 22 J. Martin names.
Billy Joe Martin, there is.
Yeah.
David C. Martin. I'm just looking through the archives as we speak.
We're not even focusing on any other initial other than J. Martin names. J. Martin. Boom. Now, these tangential Martins are interesting, like Shirley, Frank, David, William, all these other guys.
Dr.
And then, trust me,
Martin
when we get to this show, there's crazy coincidences and some crazy shit that we found that is going to be like mind-blowingly awesome.
Well, I'd love to see the connection between all that. I mean, you got Juan Martin as well.
Yep.
I mean, I have to say, there's quite an impressive list of documents regarding the name Martin in the Blunt archive. But no, I myself can't add anything to this. Sorry to say, because it's been too focused on the Oswald's last 48 hours. I mean, I'd love to read about it. That's the thing. I mean, I always say it about the CIA as well, because I just say it's a dead end. Forget about it. This, that, and the other. And Malcolm always chuckles, but I try to read most of it, what comes out, because I find it interesting. But other than that, no, I don't research it or know about it in that particular sense. No.
Well, if you come across anything, Bart, send it our way. If you see the name Martin on anything,
no worries.
Just slide it across the pond.
Yeah.
Right over here, baby.
Yeah, no worries.
That's it, Doug. We got one other one, but I don't know if we have time for it.
Yeah, we'll save that for the next one.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah, we're right up against it, Bart. We've been you guys know we've been talking almost 3 hours.
We yak too much. That's the problem.
Nah, we just have a good time. That's it. Have a good time. Bart, thank you so much for joining us, brother. This has been great.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me. Thanks to the listeners, and maybe till next time when the book's out.
The book's out. You'll be back here before then.
Oh, well, that's quick then.
Yeah, dude, you're our favorite guest.
No,
I think.
Thank you.
Right, I think Rob along all 3 platforms, he's got to be the favorite. No, nothing. Not disparaging our other guests, but. Man, he's got to be the number 1 guest, wouldn't you think?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
We love having Bart on the show.
Yeah.
And we fully expect signed free copies of that book.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, I'll sort that out.
Okay.
I'll send you a copy of the book.
All right.
You can review it. And
signed copies.
No, I can't do that because that would mean that I have to order it and get it to me and then send it to you. It'll probably get sent from Amazon. And if I'm coming to Dallas this year, although I'm not 100% sure about that. because every fucker, every idiot will come out the woodwork.
It's
the 60th. Oh, let me just go down there and pat myself on the back on my achievements from 23 years ago. No, but I might go there for a little bit of research. Who knows? Bit of Washington, bit of Dallas. You know, we can have a steak.
If you decide to go, I'm going to try to. If Bart decides to go, I'm going to try to go because I'm only 8 hours away. There's no fucking excuse. If you go to Dallas, there's no reason I can't. Right?
Yeah, and if I come to Washington, then Rob can come to Washington. It's only an hour and a half drive from you.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we're just going to bother everyone at Nara and be really obnoxious.
Oh, they're going to kick us the fuck out, Bart. What are you talking about?
I look forward to that.
Guys?
For the first time that Rob goes down to the lobby and plugs in his George Foreman grill and throws some Spam on it, you guys are out. You're gone.
I want to see the fucking Carcano now.
I want to see the revolver. The revolver that never was.
Bring the guns out.
I want to see the Minox camera that's allegedly glued shut.
Well, that's Malcolm. Malcolm had it in his hands.
Yeah.
And,
man, how cool is that?
And he said he can't open it. It was glued shut. He says, I don't know with what, but he says you can't open it. So, but that's one thing. What happened to the film that was in it? That's another.
You know, it may still be in there. For all we know, right? I don't know. But thanks for joining us, Bart, dude. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Guys, for even more ongoing, in-depth, reasoned analytical study and research of the Kennedy assassination, please check out my show, The Dallas Action Podcast, presented by Wall Street Window, originating at Spreaker.com, available everywhere you find quality podcasts like this show. It is another fine podcast from Drop D Podcast Productions in the heart of Music Row, Music City, USA. Rob?
And if you're digging this and you want to listen to my show, search for The Lone Gunman Podcast. Follow along on Twitter and TikTok at The Lone Gunman 7. Bart has a very similar Twitter handle, I believe, to mine.
Go for it.
I don't know. What is it?
It's PM is Lee Oswald. That's Twitter. My website, prayer-man.com. And on Facebook, just look up Prayer Man.
Yes. And be on the lookout for the book later this year from Mr. Bart. So, for Doug Campbell, Bart Kamp, this is Rob Clark inviting you to tune in again next time when mere moments after making the unwise decision to start yet another online comment section argument with Doug, we'll hear Leno Sanic say,
"Bald asshole? That's a hate crime."
We are out.
Peace.